Well, you know what time it is. We got another set unleashed, and while I have looked at all of the cards already, I have not yet started testing. And so it's time to put on the green sweater and rank every single card in the set. We're going to kick things off with the legends this time because I want to give a little bit of context, I guess, to some of the cards in the set. So let's start. Virtuoso, Jin, Red, Blue, Mind, Engi. When you play a spell, if you spent 4 energy or more, you may banish it. Then, if there are 4 spells banished with me, put each in its trash, channel 4 runes, and draw 1. And he comes with his signature spell, which has 3 different instances of repeat. Curtain call 4 energy, repeat 1 energy, 1 power, or 1 energy and 1 power. And it says you may pay each additional cost to repeat the spell's effect, and then choose one you haven't already chosen. Draw 1. Draw 2, or deal 2 to a unit at a battlefield, deal 3 to a unit at a base, give a unit at a battlefield -4 this turn. I think Jin immediately to me seems strong. It's hard to say how he will perform compared to something like a Kaisa, who is just getting a lot of this basically energy refund up front from being able to pay the power cost. But the like combo turn or pop-off turn where you get to channel the 4 runes and draw 1 is pretty insane. Especially because it's not channel 4 runes exhausted. Like you are refunding a spell on this 4th cast, which is really, really good. I think overall, Jin, it's not just like strict power and it requires hoops to jump through and deck building costs. So I'll just kind of sit him squarely at a 3. Curtain Call's modularity is really, really nice, but the power level of what it does for what you're spending is not above anything normal, whereas oftentimes signature spells are actually above normal power level, so it's more like, okay, just the modularity is really good. So I think Curtain Call will be played, but it's still also kind of like a 3 as that card. So Jin as a whole, we're going to give him a 3. Baseline start, easy enough. Rengar Pride Stalker, that's our Engi body legend. When you play a unit, give a unit +1 might this turn. And then he's got Thrill the Hunt, which is 2 energy, 1 power. Reaction speed, banish a friendly unit, then its owner plays it to any battlefield, ignoring its cost. So, out the gates, Pride Stalker itself as a legend is like a 2 for me. I think the ability is strong, but not insane. The fact that it's not once per turn is really good. So if you're playing a bunch of small units, you're getting a lot of value. So you're getting just like more value out of each card, which is pretty good. So it's like a 2 or a 3. Thrill the Hunt is like a 5 though. And Thrill the Hunt, it depends a little bit on, what units it has access to. But as of right now, Bryn here's still not banned. This is just beyond broken with Bryn here. It's a reaction speed flicker effect to make your opponent not be able to play the game. And then even then, just reaction speed flicker effect on any like enter the battlefield effects. I mean, it's a 5. So as a whole, we'll give Rengar a 4. We'll average it to a 4. Because Thrill, to me, is a 5. Rengar is probably a 2 or a 3. So we'll average him out to a 4 between the Rengar and the signature spell. He should be pretty good. I would imagine the signature spell is just like a little too insane. So we'll go to the next one, which is going to be Pike Blood Harbor Ripper. This is our Engi Chaos legend for the set. They've been broken every time, and we'll see if Pike ends up being an exception. But he has 1 energy to exhaust to return a friendly unit at a battlefield to its owner's hand, play a gold gear exhausted. So you're paying an energy, you're getting a gold back, and you're getting the card back in hand. So this is another thing that's playing with like enter the battlefield effects. I'm thinking Fizz, Ezreal Prodigy, that kind of stuff. And he has Death from Below is his signature, which is 4 energy of power. Kill a unit at a battlefield, then if it had 3 might or less, you may play this from your trash for a power. So it's like his ultimate in League of Legends. If you get the kill, you can play it again. Now, it can only be played again if it's killing something small, but it is also the most efficient kill a unit at a battlefield spell that we have in the game. Because currently the other ones are Drag Under, which is 5 energy, 1 power. Yes, it has that reduced cost if you see it off the top. And then we have the Blast of Power, which is 6 energy, 1 power. And both of those are in yellow, so red, purple didn't even have this. So I would say just like baseline power level, pretty good. And then the ability to like wipe a board of swarm units is also going to be really strong. And when I look at the ability itself for Blood Harbor Ripper, I think like this bounce effect is pretty abusable. I mean, bounce is really abusable if you have cheap enter the battlefield effects. I don't want to give Pike a 5 though, because I'm not so impressed with Death from Below or the effect, like where I'm like, oh, this will always be better than a lot of the other red purple. So I'm going to give him a 4. I don't think he's quite like hitting the right spot where I'm like, Pike is going to be insane. So up next, we've got, I believe, Vi, a Piltover Enforcer. Red, yellow, so Angie order. When you conquer, if you signed 3 or more excess damage, you may exhaust me to ready a unit. And then she's got her Hextech gauntlets, which are a 3 energy signature gear. Equip 3 energy, 1 power, which is an insanely high cost, but it is reduced by the might of the unit you choose. So if you're putting it on something that's already 3 might, you're just paying the power, which is a normal equip cost. And it says when I conquer, if you assign 3 or more excess damage, draw 1. And it gives +3. So it is a very efficient equipment that just requires your unit to not be like literally a recruit. Like you just can't spam cascade this on shitters, I guess. And then the ability of like needing to assign excess damage to get the readying, to get the draw, all combined. I don't think the difficulty is going to be assigning 3 damage when you actually go for a conquer. I think the difficulty is your opponent just not giving you combats to allow these to work out. And so because of that, I'm going to give Vi a 1. I think she's going to be on the weaker end. This one is funny because I don't ever really see Legends as actually being that weak, so I have to be a little bit harsher because I think most Legends have like some strength to them. There's something good about it. But I just think when I'm looking at the Legends as a whole, I think the ease of your opponent playing around this are actually like very high. And I think because of that, yeah, this Legend ability as a whole is not super exciting to me. So I'm gonna give her a 1, which is sad for me. I really like Vi. So next Legend is going to be Lilia, the Bashful Bloom. Calm Mind, 4 energy, exhaust, play a ready 3 might spite. Yes, I have spite for the sprite token. Sprite unit tokens with temporary. This ability costs 1 less for each friendly unit with temporary. Already, this is just sprite call on a stick. It just costs 1 more. So just having the effect of a card in the legend zone is really good. And then her signature spell, Lilting Lullaby, is a counter spell at the riposte cost, 2 energy, 2 power. Counter a spell, its controller can't play spells this turn. So they can still play gear and they can play units, but if, it's your turn, not your opponent's turn, and you're sending in an attack, and say it's an Aurelia opponent, and they play their first pump on Aurelia, and you counter it with Lilting Lullaby, then they, in theory, can't play more spells. However, most of those spells are reaction speed, so they can respond to Lilting Lullaby. So really, it kind of just cuts people off of action speed spells on their turn. I'm actually a little underwhelmed with Lilting Lullaby, which sounds funny, because it's just like, wow, counter spells are good in Riftbound, and this has like extra effects, but I'm more impressed with Bashful Bloom as a whole, being the Sprite's Call effect on a stick. And it can be better than a Sprite's Call if you lean into temporary, but even if you put 0 other temporary things in your deck, I actually still think the ability is pretty solid. Not using a card to do something a card does at not much larger effect or cost is pretty solid. So I'm going to give Lilia a 4. I really like this ability. I actually think she's dragged down. Actually, no, she gets a 3 because of Lilting Lullaby. Sorry, I'm going to change that. Because of Lilting Lullaby, she gets a 3. Because I think Lilting Lullaby is a 2 for me, and I think Lilia is a 4, so I'm going to give her that 3. We're going to put it right in between. I think she gets dragged a little bit down by the signature. Up next is Master Yi, Wuju Master. We got the reprint of Master Yi, except for it's not a reprint. It is a brand new legend. He is still common body, and he plays around the hunt mechanic. He needs to get to level 6, and then your units would have +1 might. And then at level 11, all your units enter ready, which is broken if it is easy enough for him to get those levels. And getting experience doesn't seem too incredibly hard yet. The hunt is a keyword that exists for conquering and holding to get XP. There's other ways to get XP, and his signature spell, Alpha Strike, can generate XP. 3 energy, a power. Alpha Strike is an action. Choose a friendly unit. It deals damage equal to its might, split among enemy units at battlefields. Then for each unit this kills, do this, gain 1 XP. So against token decks, you can farm a bunch of XP, but for the most part, you'll gain 1, 2, something like that experience from this. Though that's, a lot. I want to say, Wuju Master, obviously, when not having the XP yet, horrible, 1, terrible, right? Doesn't do anything. When he reaches level 11, 5, insane, broken. When he's level 6, 3. And I think that's how he's designed, right? So really, this is going to come down to how easy it is to actually hunt. What we'll say is, it's impossible to truly evaluate, but I think if it is easy to get this online, Master Yi is a 5, he is a threat, he is terrifying. If this is relatively difficult to get online, he's closer to like a 3. And so I think we'll just say that he is, yeah, I mean, he is modular. He is 2 ratings. I can't give him a single rating. We can put him in the middle at 4, but at the end of the day, it just depends on how hard it is to get the hunt stacks. The hot take is that he will be a 5 because they're going to make XP easy enough to get, something like that. All right, Vex Gloomist. This is Calm Chaos. When you or an ally hold, you may exhaust me to draw 1. And then she has a signature unit in Shadow, which is if you play me to a battlefield, I enter ready. And then he has an action that pays 1 energy and a power to exhaust to stun an enemy unit attacking him. So you conquer, you play him to the battlefield, he's ready, so then you can exhaust him at action speed to stun somebody attacking in. So they're trying to make Calm Chaos a really strong hold archetype via Vex with her signature, with her ability, and then also we'll talk about her signature champions later because those are going to come up, but she has a signature champion that is not signature champion, sorry, but chosen champion that is going to be very good for helping her hold. A lot of people saw this ability and were like, wow, 1 right off the gates, but the support that she's gotten has made it so that I believe that Vex will actually be near the top of like my tier list of tier lists. She's going to be one of the better legends in Spiritforged. But the funniest part about all of that is if I am ranking just the legend card with the signature, I'm giving her 2. So I think this deck is going to be incredible and it's going to be super strong. But yeah, I don't particularly think her ability or her signature are that strong overall on the run. But yeah, it will be cool to see how that pans out overall. As we go to our next one, Ivern Greenfather, Calm Order. When you conquer or hold, you may exhaust me to replace that battlefield with a brush battlefield token. And a brush is basically going to give +1 to birds, cats, dogs, poros, and Iverns. They all get +1 might. And then his signature is Daisy, which is a signature unit as well. And she enters ready. And you can reduce her cost by 1 for each of the following tags among your unit, bird, cat, dog, and poro. And then it says, when I attack while your units have all 4 tags, stun an enemy unit here. I mean, I think Ivern, until he gets more support, is going to be really unplayable. I don't think that his ability is necessarily that bad. It does some interesting cheesy stuff and then creates an Anthem effect that is like theoretically one-sided. Like his deck will get the Anthem and your deck will not. So it's like he turns everything into Trifarian War Camp for him, but not for you. But then Daisy is incredibly clunky when she's missing all the tags. You really kind of need all 4 of the tags for her to feel good. I guess that cost reduction doesn't get limited. So if you can find a way to make like a stupid amount of birds in Ivern, like you make 9 birds, does that reduce by 9? I don't know. Actually, I don't think for each of the following tags among your units. So is it just maximum reduced by 4? This is a great question that we'll maybe clarify in the comments. If it can be reduced by more than 4, Daisy's insane. If it can only be reduced by 4, Ivern is a 1. So we'll leave him at 1. We'll leave him at a 1 for now. I don't really like Ivern that much. I think this is not going to be that good. I think that he can improve a lot with the right support. So in the future, I could see him being closer to like a 3. But even then, I just don't think his signature and everything are that good. So we'll say a 1. Up next is Diana, Scorn of the Moon, Mind Chaos, boom, 5, baby, Mind Chaos, very strong. No, a reaction, exhaust to add 1 energy. You can only do this during showdowns, but the biggest reason she's actually is just legit a 5 is Moonfall as well as her signature. which is a 3 energy, 1 power action where you can choose a battlefield where you have units. You may move up to 1 enemy unit to that battlefield, then give enemy units their -2 this turn. I think this is insane. If your opponent is sending in a small attack to test the waters, you can bring another more important unit from theirs in, give everything -2, clear it all. It costs less because you're often using it in a showdown, right? So it costs less, as in Scorn of the Moon is going to be able to give you an energy. I really think Diana's going to be quite strong. I think Ezreal was doing a really powerful thing already. I think Diana is going to continue to be extremely powerful, and even with the recent bans to some purple cards, I think that might even end up being more of a reason to play Diana. Yes, there was some card draw banned, but they're also revealed some card draw that we'll talk about later. So we'll do a 5. I think she's good. Up next, we have Deceiver. LeBlanc the Deceiver. This is the legend I am most excited for. Mind Order. When you conquer or hold, you may discard 1 and exhaust me to play a ready reflection unit token there. It becomes a copy of another unit there. Give it temporary. So basically, when you conquer or hold, you get to throw away a card and turn it into the unit that conquered or held is the most common thing. I mean, yes, if you have multiple units, you just pick one. But that does not work for Enter the Battlefield effects, which would make this legend the most broken thing that's ever existed. But it does work for things like Death Knell or Anthems or just ongoing effects, which is still very, very strong, especially because these temporaries are going to die, and then the Death Knell is going to trigger and give you some power. And then her signature spell, Mirror Image, is choose a unit, play a ready reflection token to your base. It becomes a copy of that unit, give it temporary, which is crazy because you can choose your own unit if you have the most powerful unit, or you can choose your opponent's unit if they have the strongest unit out there and utilize it to basically trade or conquer over one of their smaller units, or a lot of different value, basically paradigms that can come from Mirror Image. I think LeBlanc looks incredibly powerful. I'm going to give it a 5. I think her signature spell really helps loft it up, but also the just ability to turn powerful effects into and double them with Deceiver is really nice. Is also just really good at creating opportunities to hold with these temporary units, or creating opportunities to make your opponent go down in value. I think card draw is the thing she'll have to look out for, and if she can solve that issue, which I think blue and yellow with the new cards can, she's going to be really good. Void Reaver Kha'Zix. This is Body Chaos. When you win a combat, gain 1 XP. You can spend an XP to buff a unit, or spend 2 to move an exhausted friendly unit from battlefield to its base. And then the signature spell Void Assault is 2 energy, 1 power. Move a friendly unit, then move an enemy unit. If they both move to a battlefield you don't control, you're the attacker. It is challenged with extra steps, but it also synergizes with Void Reaver, giving you a combat win, you get an XP. And, you can conquer with it from an exhausted unit, being able to be moved somewhere. So it's like this weird combination of challenge and charm. I think the cards are good. I actually think Kha'Zix is probably being a little underrated out the gates by a lot of players, because looking at the XP thing, they're like, well, these tap abilities don't seem good. You look at Lee Sin, and it's like, spend an XP to get a buff. So just do Lee Sin's ability, but you have to spend a cost. But I think the second part of moving an exhausted friendly unit from battlefield to base is quite good. I think the signature spell is probably playable as a removal piece to synergize a bit with some of the XP gain, look for some opportunities to score, get some movement. I think Kha'Zix is pretty well-rounded and going to sit somewhere like a 4 for me. I think it's quite good. And the final legend that we've got is going to be Poppy, Body Order, Keeper of the Hammer. When you hold, gain 1 XP, spend 3 XP to exhaust to draw. Wow. Hold to gain 1 XP sounds horrible, but the second part is pretty good, continuing to give you another way to get card advantage in colors that historically have really sucked at getting any card advantage. I will say, though, 3 XP seems like a lot to have to spend for a card. Well, it seems like the right amount to spend for a card, but it just seems like a lot to constantly be needing to generate. And her signature spell is 2 energy, 2 power action. Choose an enemy unit at a battlefield. Its owner places it on the top or the bottom of their main deck. This is like better Rebuke. It's the same cost as Rebuke, but it's just better. It doesn't put it in their hand. It makes it a draw, or it just fully removes it. So this is another case of, hey, we made a signature spell that's sick and broken, so we made the legend kind of bad. And so we get basically like a signature spell that's a 5, and a legend that's like a 1. So we get a 3 for Poppy, because this signature spell goes absolutely bonkers. The signature spell is insanity. So overall, it's a 3. Keeper's Verdict would be a 5. Keeper of the Hammer would be a 1 for me. All right, and that is all of the legends. So we will move on to the next. Now we're just going to go from the beginning, the start. Unleashed 001 all the way down, which means we are starting with Fury. Arena Kingpin, 5 energy, 3 might. I enter ready. You can exhaust the Arena Kingpin to give a unit +3 this turn. So it is basically Heart of Dark Ice on a unit in Fury, which is kind of spicy. It also has this like side note of being able to go conquer itself the second you play it in. And it's like a long-term value engine. My problem is I don't know who wants this. I don't know who wants to play Arena Kingpin and get this effect. So with that in mind, I'm just gonna give this like a 2. Yeah, it feels really high costed, but it's like this weird flexible common that does some interesting stuff. I just can't think of a deck that I would ever put this in currently, but I don't think it's inherently weak. So I'm just gonna put it as a 2, and then we'll move on. Next up is Baron Pit. That is crazy. Baron Pit units can move here from any. There's not actually any reason to really rate Baron Pit because it is just a token, and we'll go from there. Up next is Inferno, 2 energy, 1 might. Ambush. You may play me as a reaction to a battlefield where you have units. The new keyword, Assault 2. So combat trick of +3 when you're attacking, and it leaves behind a body, so she can actually conquer as the combat trick, right? And then also serves as a turn 1 play. Turn 1 play that is essentially 3 might. So kind of similar to Poro, but more flexible. I really like Inferno. This is a very good 2-drop for me. I'll say she's a 4. I think 2-drops need to do something extra, and she does with the ambush. Next is Mischievous Mirai, a 2 energy, 2 might, 2-drop with Hidden. When you play me to a battlefield, deal 2 to an enemy unit here. This is kind of like Blue Teemo in a sense. It works as a hidden card to ping for 2, which kind of makes it like Sudden Storm from Red, but it's like worse Sudden Storm, but it can be played on turn 1 as a unit. I just feel like there probably are better 2-drops than playing this as a whole. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a 2. It is still better than like, vanilla 2-drop stuff. I like the flexibility of it being hidden. You can bluff other things, but it's not really strong, I would say. Then we'll go to Prepared Neophyte. This is 3 energy, 1 might. If you've spent 4 energy or more to play a spell this turn, I have +4. So this is supposed to be Jhin support, wanting to have spells that you want to play spells that are costing 4, and then this gives you like above rate might when you're doing that because you're paying 3 for 5 might. But I think that this is so useless if you don't have the ability to jump through the hoop that I just think you can play better cards that are going to be of pretty good value without trying to make this happen. So I'm going to give it a 1. All right, next up is Revna, the Lore Keeper. This is 7 energy, 1 power, 7 might with ganking. She is, when you play a spell, if you spend 4 energy or more, ready me. So this is kind of interesting because I think ganking is really appealing for this type of effect. So you would go in and conquer. So you play her on 1 turn for like 7 energy and you just pass, right? And she lives the next turn. And then you go in and conquer, you play a spell that has spent 4 more, you ready her, you go conquer the other side, you double conquer. That feels a little bit more like some cool Jhin support, but she is, overall still just like fairly costed and is just vanilla stats at the end of the day. She gets to do some cool effects, but she is just stats. I think she's going to be no better than a 3. It's going to be hard to fit her because expensive cards are going to be really contested for what you want to do when you spend that much energy. But I do think that, at least in theory, she does some powerful enough things to consider. Next up is Sharkling. This is a 3 energy, 1 might accelerate unit that has Assault 4. So that would be paying 4 energy, 1 power to enter ready and then attack for 5. which is a little bit above rate. However, once you're in a battlefield or if you're sitting on the board against removal spells, you just die immediately. I think there's too much stuff that's going to be able to punish these type of effects, and so I'm going to make this a 1. I just can't think of where I'm going to want to play Sharkling. I get that it's supposed to be for Pike, because you'll just like go score and pick it up and then accelerate it again and go score and pick it up and all that, but I just don't really, it just feels way too expensive and not very good. So I'll say 1. Up next is Smite, one of the iconic summoner spells from League of Legends. 2 energy, 1 power. Action, deal 3 to a unit at a battlefield. If it would die this turn, banish it instead. So this is to prevent any graveyard shenanigans. This is to prevent death knells. There's probably some other things that this gets to prevent, but interesting that it is very over-costed for the effect. However, the effect that you're really getting is the tech from this of denying death knells and denying graveyard shenanigans, which means that this is a sideboard card. It is sideboard tier. You would not really often put this in your main deck unless it's directly countering something, so I will say that it is a 2, because I'm not even convinced that it's that good for the niche that it might fill in. It definitely does not make it to 3 territory. Up next is Towering Pyrophant. Good little elephant creature thingy, Eldritch Horror with 2 trunks and a bunch of tentacles. 6 energy, 6 might, assault 1. If a unit died this turn, I enter ready, which is not bad. Entering ready is an exciting line of text for anybody in this game. You really need some amount of that kind of effect in your deck. And it's any unit died this turn, so your own unit can be sacrificed, and then you send in Towering Pyrophant. But 6 energy is a high cost, but I think for the amount of stats you're getting, it's not too bad. I struggle, again, to really find a great place that I'm going to love to put this card in. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a 2. I don't think the card is that amazing, but it's not that bad because it enters ready. Then we've got Upstage Comedy, 2 energy, repeat for 2, ready a unit. Readying units is very good. Ganking is something that this can really synergize with. Jin is in the art, and the repeat effect of readying 2 units will make this cost 4 and trigger for Jin. I think this is a 3. I think there will be strategies where you really want to play this. It's kind of like Bushwhack, but it can be spent for 4, and it can be used not having to be used at the start of turn and then play the units, but you can already have the units and then like push them in somewhere, ready them, send them somewhere else, or retreat and ready them, send them somewhere else. So I actually think it's pretty useful, and I think that it will see play. I can 100% believe that this will see play. Our next card is Vault Breaker, 1 energy, 1 power, action speed. Give a unit assault 2 and ganking this turn. That is some really cool Vi support. So Vi really wants to overkill something by 3, and then her unit gets readied. So if you Vault Breaker your unit, and that gives you the overkill by 3, then now your unit gets readied and then can gank to the other battlefield. So I mean, this is going to be a 3 of in Vi. It's a very powerful effect for her in particular. I think it'll be a lot harder for other decks to really want to leverage this. However, if you are holding at a battlefield and then the start of your turn, you can give a unit assault and ganking and move it over is still powerful. So I think in Vi, Piltover Enforcer, this is like a 5. Like this will 3 of in your deck every single time. But I don't think as a whole this card can be a 5 because it doesn't have that like mass appeal for other decks. So I'll put it at a 4 because of its strength in Vi, and then it's actually like kind of playable. It's okay in some of the other decks. Usually it's just worse than Cleave though. It's like significantly worse than Cleave in most decks, but maybe Vi likes it because of the ganking. Fresh Beans, 2 energy. When you play a unit during a showdown, you may exhaust this to draw 1. Play a unit during a showdown, you may exhaust this to draw 1. So this is supposed to be for like Rengar trying to play a lot of ambushes and then refilling his hand. And Red-Orange historically has struggled to draw cards. So maybe with some beans you can start drawing cards, but these types of effects are often very slow and sometimes are a little bit too slow. However, If this is just within your, I will play this on turn 1 and then look to set up some ambushes throughout the game, I could actually see that being kind of reasonable. I'm going to say 3. I think Fresh Beans is a playable card. I read this wanting to hate it, but for Rengar, if you are playing a critical mass of ambush units, then suddenly Fresh Beans is not too bad at just kind of giving you a replacement for these cards when you're playing them out, especially if you can play a lot of cheaper ambushes. Lord Broadmane, 5 energy, 1 power, ambush. When you play me, give your other units here assault this turn, so just +1 assault. So if you can swarm, this Anthem can be good, but we had Captain Farron from Origins that has a similar effect as far as the Anthem goes, and he is better costed because he doesn't have ambush, but I don't know that ambush is actually worth, like, I don't know that I want to necessarily be ambushing this guy in. It definitely makes him better than Farron to some extent, but I'm not sure that he's necessarily going to fit in a lot of the ambush decks, because I think a lot of the ambushes are just like very big units, so I don't know that I want to be playing this Anthem. But I guess Assault is synergistic in that you're already going to be attacking when you ambush. So yeah, I guess I'll just give it a 2. I'm not really sold on Lord Broadmane. All right, up next is Lotus Trap. 2 energy, can be hidden or played at reaction speed. Choose a unit, double all damage that would be dealt to it this turn. That is kind of sick. It augments any of your spells to just be double damage. Now, the problem with this card is it does nothing on its own. But it says all damage that would be dealt to it this turn. So that can count as combat damage if you hide it. You do have the option to not just need spells to combo with it. I think if your deck is like a Progress Day type Jhin list where you've got a ton of cards in hand, this becomes very powerful. Because when it is combined with something, it's basically going to increase your kill range of a lot of these spells. I mean, by double, literally by double. I mean, that is just what it does, which may or may not end up being pretty important. I think it's too niche to hit too high of mark, so I'm going to give it a 3, but it's a great sideboard idea for decks that are going to have stuff that's too big for your red deck to actually kill. And I think that's going to be probably where it gets relegated to. Next is Monster Harpoon, 1 energy, 1 power. Action, deal 2 to a unit at a battlefield. If you control a face-down card, deal 4 to it instead. So this is definitely looking like a Pike card. It seems like with the red-purple, he wants to be hiding cards a decent amount. And I mean, this is just strong. I mean, this is just a better Hextech Ray when it is for 4. And 4 is a breakpoint that has often been important in Riftbound. End of the day, this is entirely going to come down to, first off, the critical mass of hidden that you're playing in the Pike list or whatever list you want to play Monster Harpoon in. And then secondly, it's going to be what the might breakpoints are. So if like 2 and 4 are the most important and 3 is not often hitting anything impactful, Monster Harpoon's like strictly just going to be better. But it's never going to be an insane card, just like Hextech Ray is not an insane card. So I'll give it a 3. Super playable, though. I like when these cards are very deck build restricted, though. That feels like, really nice. These niche ideas creates a lot of different games that you're going to get to play. Next up is Rite of Conquest, 3 energy, 1 power. Draw 1, then draw 1 for each battlefield your allies control. A pretty good multiplayer card, and that, I won't say that's it, because Progress Day is 6 energy and a power to draw 4. If you have Rite of Conquest, and you double conquer to start your turn or whatever, because sometimes in certain matchups, you're going to have like free double conquer angles with cheap units, or you have units on board, you play a spell to clear their battlefields and then push in. Like I'm thinking Kaisa as maybe an example for this. And then you conquer both sides, and then you play a Rite of Conquest, and you're just really ahead in that case. So if Progress Day is getting played as much as it is, I actually think Rite of Conquest is probably very playable. I'm going to put it at 3, though. It's not, I don't think it's like that insane. I just think this is like, I don't know. My initial gut reaction was like, oh, multiplayer card, terrible. But no, I actually think this is probably pretty decent in the same kind of ideas where you'd want to play Progress Day. Scorch Claw, we got a dog, which is going to matter for Ivern, even though he can't play Scorch Claw. It's going to matter for Ivern in Limited. 3 energy, 1 power, hunt 2. When I conquer or hold, gain 2 XP. And then at level 3, it has +1 might and enters ready. And then it has 3 might baseline. So Scorch Claw, if you've got the XP online, it's pretty good, but because it's like 3 for 4, yeah, I mean, it's a very good accelerate unit when you're level 3. The problem is there's not much reason to get XP in red, unless I'm missing something. I don't think so. No, because Poppy has XP, Yi has XP, and Kha'Zix has XP, and none of them have red. So right now, there's not a whole lot of reason to want to play for XP in red. So I'm going to give this a... It's funny. This is a 1 in Unleashed, and then the second we get like a red legend that cares about XP, this is probably a 4. I mean, Hunt 2, it enters ready in the end game. No, maybe not a 4. It's a 3 later on. But it's a 1 for now. It's a 1 in Unleashed. Yeah, this card is not that good. Square Up. 4 energy, repeat, discard 1. Interesting, different repeat effect. Discarding instead of having to pay more is kind of cool. Give a unit Assault 4 this turn. So Assault 8 if you give up another card, and that can be split up between multiple units. However, when we look at the card Cleave, that is Assault 4 for 1 energy, or sorry, Assault 3 for 1 energy. We look at Blood Rush, that's Assault 4 for 2 energy. So when am I mean, Jin is the answer, right? I mean, Jin is just because it costs 4. I guess Jin is the answer. Someone's going to have to prove this card to me. This is a 1. I don't really think this card makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to say 1. Then we have Yeti Brawler, 6 energy, 6 might. When I conquer, if you assign 3 or more excess damage, play 2 gold gear tokens exhausted. So immediately wanting to play on the Vi axis, right? You already want to be assigning 3 or more excess damage, you know, with that legend so that you can ready your units. With the gauntlets, you can draw a card. And this is a way to get gold if you do so. I do like things that reward the game plan you're already going for. And I think this may just be the weaknesses of Vi as a whole, is that, hey, this just doesn't seem that good. And I think I'd rather have some other effects. It's more like, you know, Tryndamere seems like a card where I want to like lean into that excess damage, whereas making 2 gold tokens when I've already played this like 6 cost, maybe not insane. I'll give it a 3. I think it's probably playable in her deck. It might be like a core unit that you play, like you play a 2, you play a 4, and then you play Yeti Brawler on turn 3, and that's like a common play pattern for Vi potentially. And that gold allows you to play things like Falling Star and really expensive power costing red spells later on. Up next is Blighted Battle Axe, 4 energy, equip for 1 energy and a power. This is 4 might on an equip, which is insanity, but it says at the end of your turn, if I didn't conquer this turn, unattach this and deal 4 to me. So, interesting. This wants to be equipped to very large units so that it doesn't kill them if it gets unequipped, right? And then it just makes your unit even bigger. And then you also need to be just like looking for conquers. This again is like a Vi card because the +4 is going to mean you're going to conquer over things by like 3 excess a lot. And then you use the readying aspects of Vi to retreat home so that on your next turn, you can swing it again and conquer. Because if you hold with this, you might not be able to conquer and then you lose the battle axe. So yeah, it kind of feels like a Vi card. Very interesting. The hoop to jump through seems difficult, but the rate is quite okay. It's actually not even that good, right? Because BF Sword is 4 and then it's +3, and the equip cost is not as steep. This is a 1. This card sucks. This card sucks. What are we talking about? This card terrible. All right, next is Dancing Grenade, 2 energy, 1 power. Deal 2 to a unit. Its controller may play this spell again for 1 power. If they do, this deals 1 additional bonus damage for each time the spell has dealt damage this turn. If you are confused about how this works, basically you throw this at a unit. The person who owns that unit decides if it casts again, not you. And then it bounces around. Multiplayer tier, 1 for competitive, 5 for fun. So yeah, play this in your multiplayers, your free-for-alls, that kind of stuff. But this is a 1. I don't think this is ever going to see competitive play. Grim Apothecary, 3 energy, 3 might. Ambush. When you play me, you may return a friendly unit at a battlefield to its owner's hand. Return a friendly unit at a battlefield. So this is kind of interesting for like countering stun or in response to spells that are going to kill your unit. And I think that's a pretty good use case. Sideboard card for sure. Not sure exactly what deck I want to play it in or if it's like where the edge case is that this sees play. But it is like this niche powerful enough that I would say it's a 3. Like I would consider putting this in my deck for a very specific meta. Because yeah, I think denying your unit dying to a spell and letting you basically effectively draw a card because your unit was going to die, so then you like redraw the unit is pretty nice. And it can allow you to hold in certain spots, right? Like you can respond to a spell that's clearing you from a battlefield that you were gonna hold and your opponent can't get over, and you can like Grim Apothecary bounce your guy and still hold. And I think that's there's gonna be a spot where this card is pretty good. Now we've got a Chosen Champion potential for Jhin. Jhin, Murderous Artist, 4 energy, 1 power, deflect ganking when I move, add 1 energy, 1 power, and he has 4 might. To me, this is a 5. I mean, is a turn 2 always play for Jhin available, right? And then this move effect is crazy. If you can ready him in some way, that's going to be really good. So I would also look at this for Vi even, because it has ganking. So you ready him when you conquer with 3 above for Vi, and then you can move him again and add more energy and power. Like, this card seems very good. I mean, I'm just giving it a 5 straight up. That card's great. I'd be surprised if this card isn't good. Then we've got Katarina, 5 energy, 1 power, 5 might. Katarina, Reckless. When you hide a card, ready me. When you play a card from face down, deal 2 to an enemy unit. That enemy unit is anywhere. It just says deal 2 to an enemy unit, which is pretty nice. Really good hidden synergy. They're trying to find this like red hidden deck, right? Where they're adding all these hidden for red. And then I think Pike is kind of the one who seems like maybe wants to do it because they're like purple is also good for hidden. So maybe Pike wants to be the hidden deck, especially with units. Like he can bounce purple Teemo and then like re-hide purple Teemo. So there's like, you know, some of those kind of cool things. And when you hide a card, ready me. So she doesn't want to be at the location where the hidden card is. She wants the hidden card to allow her to like pivot around and then set up to deal these pings. Really hard card to evaluate. I think in the right circumstances, this card could probably be a 3 because this is like this text is kind of good, but I don't see a world where like paying this cost and setting up this board state is very easy. And sometimes that like really difficult to get to strategy makes things a lot worse. So I'll give Katarina a 2. I actually don't know that she's going to end up being relevant. But if she's really good, then she ends up in that like 4 territory probably. But yeah, I have her at a 2. I don't believe in it. I don't think it's going to be good, which makes me sad. I was a cat main once in a former lifetime. I played Katarina. Now we have Rengar Unseen, 4 energy, 1 power, 4 might. Every keyword in the game. No, it's accelerate, assault 2, deflect, and ganking for Rengar Unseen. Potential chosen champion option for Pride Stalker for Rengar. And it is a turn 2 play, but it has a power cost, which does make it worse. But I still think that's a pretty decent chosen champion option because it has accelerate. So accelerate from the chosen champ sounds good. And then these keywords are pretty strong. Like accelerating it in at 6 might is really good. And then it has deflect and ganking, which are also just like strong keywords. So this is a 4. It's not quite a 5 for me. I actually don't think this is like every single game playing this on turn 2 is like just really good. But I think it's a strong option, and yeah, it's pretty good, pretty solid. Next is Undying Legion, 3 energy, 3 might. This says Legion, you may play me from your trash for 3 energy and a power. So very expensive to recur. It's more expensive than it actually costs baseline to play it, but it is recursion, which is quite nice. This is, I mean, it's Jinx support realistically. Like, Jinx wants a critical mass of cards that you can play from other zones, that you can play, you know, without needing cards in hand, so that when you dump your hand, that you draw into 2 cards, you play those 2 cards, and if you have runes left, you have something else to do, right? And Undying Legion gives you something that you can always do later on. I think playing from grave effects are usually very powerful. This is a bit overcosted, but this is maybe like a 4 for me. I think some way this can kind of be broken for a strategy and just be really nice. Yeah, I would look for like a very spell heavy removal Jinx deck that maybe uses Undying Legion and Phoenixes as its way to conquer on that like triple red seal. There's some cool stuff you can do. Zareth Freed, 5 energy, 5 might. Pay 1 red power to exhaust, deal 3 to a unit. Use this ability only while I'm at a battlefield. What I'll say is Caitlyn had an ability similar to this that is, you know, unplayable, right? And there are ways to ready now with we saw it was like Upstage Comedy was that card we saw earlier that can maybe be pretty cool for Zareth to like ready himself and then fire on the back line. And I think there's going to be ways to make this work, but my safe bet is that this is a 1 and not actually going to be playable. Not having a power cost helps. Maybe when Zareth is a legend, this has some cool chosen champion stuff that it can do. But for now, it's 1. Now we get to the epics. Inviolus Vox, 8 energy, 2 power, 8 might. When I conquer, give a friendly unit +8 this turn. You know, there's another dragon I'm famous for putting a 1 and then eating my words a little bit. But guess what? Nobody plays that dragon anymore anyway. So I was right the whole time. I'm talking to you, White Flame Protector. Inviolus Vox is worse. It sucks. It's a 1. It's terrible. Not good. Not good. Why would I play this card? Timmy card. I think that's what I said about White Flame. I'll say it again. Timmy card. So there it is. Now we have another potential chosen champion option, this time for Pike, Dockside Butcher, 3 energy, 2 might, hidden. They really do want to lean into this hidden for Pike, it feels like. Ganking, you may pay 1 power as an additional cost to play me. When you play me, if you paid the additional cost, ready me and give me +2 this turn. And has the ganking, which is pretty nice. So this is kind of basically Purple Teemo. However, it can't be played on turn 1 from the champion zone unless you are going second. And you need to pay that additional power cost to get that same might value. The advantage from Pike versus Teemo is that keyword ganking. And I do think it's very relevant in that if your opponent does not enter the battlefield where you've hidden this Pike, you now have this next turn when you hold, you can reveal your Pike. He comes in ready with the +2, and then he can gank over and conquer the other side, which I think is a very strong effect for this hidden card. I'm going to give it a 4. I think this is a really powerful effect that allows you to not only defend, potentially go for holds, but then also potentially conquer. And then going second, it is in theory a turn 1 play from the champion zone if you really need it, though it's a bad turn 1 play from the champion zone. Next, we have Red Brambleback. This is 4 energy, 1 power, 4 might. Accelerate. Your conquer effects for conquering here trigger an additional time. When I conquer, buff a friendly unit. So baseline has when I conquer, buff 2 friendly units because it's going to trigger an additional time. However, the combo potential for this is very high. It already works with the Lucian combo to score additional points. And I think this additional time effect, this guy's getting the Karthus treatment for me. I gave Karthus a very high mark, even though I knew Karthus was like not good in Origins. Brambleback gets a 5 from me. This will break. I just feel like these effects will find a way to break at some point in the game. Whether that happens now or it happens much later, I expect this card to be good. And if you're the finance bros out there want to find an epic card to pick up for Unleashed, pick up your red Bramblebacks. I don't know. It's probably good at some point in time. So yeah, I'd pick up this card. I'm gonna pick up this card. There you go. The more you know. Now we have another epic. We've got Vi Hot-Headed. This is another potential chosen champion. 4 energy, 3 might, deflect, and it has a repeatable slow speed action, not action speed, but like repeatable slow speed thing that you can do, ability. 2 energy, 1 power, double my might this turn. So, I think this is a really great chosen champion. We've seen like 4 cost chosen champions being very good when they don't have a power cost, and it has deflect to help you if your opponent is just going to try and remove it with a spell. At least they're going to have to pay, like, get taxed by the deflect. And then the double my might part of this, if you equip, the gauntlets, doubling her might is going to just immediately make her a 12, which is going to crack over most. Like, you can't hold into this very easily. It's really difficult to hold into this unless you have a spell to kill or stun her. I actually will give her a 5 as a chosen champion. I think that these types of chosen champions are really good. I think that Vi as a whole is weak. I think the package is weak for that legend. I think if she gets saved, the thing that's going to save her is having really solid chosen champion options. And I think Vi Hot-Headed is a good one. All right, up next is the Calm Domain as we make our way through all of these unleashed cards. And we're going to kick things off with Combat Experience, a 1 energy spell, reaction speed, give a unit +1 this turn. But if you are level 6, so if you have 6 experience or more, give it +3 this turn instead. So, bad on guard, but at level 6, +3 instead. So good, better on guard, very strong. So this is clearly Master Yi support, the new Wuju Master. And for me, it really is like, if level 6 is super fast and easy to get to, this card is incredible. It is insane. And for that reason, I have to assume getting to 6 is not going to be hard for Wuju Master, but getting to like 11 will be. And so since this is at the level 6 breakpoint, it's probably pretty good. And maybe this is just a 4. Like, this is just a good card. It's just for Yi though. It needs to be in an XP archetype, but it's better than On Guard if you can get into that spot. Now, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it hurts too much to draw these in the early game, but I kind of want to see units early on, and then I want to see the spells as the game goes. So, yeah, I kind of like it. We'll see. Good spells in those colors. It's a lot to compete with. So, Double Trouble, 2 energy spell with repeat for 2 energy. Look at the top 3 cards of your main deck. You may reveal a unit from among them and draw it. Recycle the rest. We've finally done it. We've made Nocturne good and green, because this is just a draw 2. In theory, if you're playing mostly units in your deck, if you're like a unit heavy deck, it's draw 2 and potentially find Nocturne. So Nocturne Yasuo on the horizon, maybe, with Double Trouble. It's weird because this is just units instead of spells. It's basically like Called Shot, but it gets to look at more things, but you can only draw units. I am dubious at best of this. It is a draw 2, but it is, it's probably a 2. However, in the specific green-purple Nocturne deck, I mean, the card's incredible, but it's probably a 2. Next, we have Frisky Hunter. This is a 4 energy, 3 might cat. So looking at that Ivern support, when you play me, play a 1 might bird unit token with deflect here. Very good Ivern card, right? This is going to give you 2 of the tags that you're looking for already for Daisy or for any of the other Ivern synergies that you need, and they'll get +1 on brush. In any other deck, I think this is close to unplayable. Making the 2 units is okay in some circumstances, but it's essentially a 1. But in Ivern, it's a staple. So we'll give it a 3 because I think it's a staple for Ivern, but I don't think it's particularly good. I just think it will be like one of the better turn 2 plays that Ivern has. Now we have Herald of Spring, 4 energy, 1 power, 4 might with Hunt. And when you play me, gain 2 XP. So not only having the ability to gain repeated XP with the Hunt, but just getting baseline 2 XP, which I have to imagine that kind of effect is kind of nice for Yi. And we're starting to see like how some of that XP can happen. But I imagine that at this might value and the power cost is going to hurt it a little bit. I would say it's probably a 3 in the XP builds. Well, no, I think it's closer to a 2. I really don't like paying power this early in the game. I think 4 costs with the power costs are often need to be insanely good to justify it. Like, look at Kiana. That's been cut almost everywhere, and that card's text is, like, stupid. So this card's text is not nearly good enough, I think, to be a 4 cost with a power. I've convinced myself that this is unplayable. It's a 1. I just think it's really tough at this cost to play something like this. So yeah, Herald of Spring is a 1. All right, Monch, 6 energy, 6 power. If an opponent controls a stunned unit, I cost 2 less and enter ready. Leona support? Finally? After all these years? This card's good with stun decks. 4 for 6, enter ready? That's good. I mean, it's not like that good, but it's good. It's a 3. That's kind of all we ask for in stun decks is like, hey, can we have some more 3s so we don't have to play like terrible cards? Yeah, this card's fine. It's super playable. I might put that in a deck. And the operative word there is might. Like, it might make the cut. Now we have a 2 energy, 1 might mutated monster. It is a cat with shield 2 and tank. So the cat tag makes me think of Ivern again. Other than that, it is the same stats in theory as your like stalwart Poro in green. That is like 2 for 2 and shield 1. But this trades having a worse offense by being a 1 might unit on offense for the tank keyword and the cat tag instead of Poro, but I guess that's deuces as of now for Ivern. I think the tank keyword is really good and worthwhile. The concern is that this doesn't trade into any 2s if that's what you want offensively, and it makes it harder to get it to a battlefield. But if it just goes onto an open battlefield, I'd rather have this than Stalwart Poro, because you go into the open battlefield, you conquer with mutated Mouser, and then you play whatever unit you want to protect. Like, say you're Ari playing Sonas, and you put a Sona behind the mutated Mouser. So for that reason, I think this is probably as good or better than Stalwart Poro, and I'll give it a 3. Not a crazy 2-drop, but if 2-drops become the meta again, it's not bad. Next up, we have Shadow Watcher, 4 energy, 1 power, 5 might. If a friendly unit died during your beginning phase this turn, I enter ready. So this is looking to capitalize on sprites. And so this is a Lilia card. So if your sprites are dying, then your Shadow Watcher, when you play it, can enter ready, which that is a powerful enough effect. Look, I was saying 4 energy, 1 power needs to do something really good. And this is like kind of a 5 might accelerate unit for Lilia, because you'll always have sprites that exist. And I don't see this as a turn 2 play. I see this as a play for later in the game when that entering ready being matched up with some good spells or effects that you're going to compare with it is going to be really valuable. I will give this a 4 in the context of Lilia. And I think that it's cool that a lot of these cards feel a bit more targeted towards specific legends. It's harder for me to give ratings that are just like, objectively, this card in vacuum is like, whatever, this card's not very good in a vacuum. But in Lilia, it's quite good, and I'll give it a 4 for that. Next, we have Skyward Strike, 2 energy, 1 power, move a friendly unit. At level 6, stun an enemy unit. So another kind of Master Yi idea with that level, needing to get to level 6. And this becomes Charm with a stun attached to it. So just better than Charm in that case. This card is, again, damn, these level up cards are so insanely good. I don't like Master, I don't want to play Master Yi, but I feel like this deck I need to test, because this deck is either disgustingly broken or it is so unplayably bad, and I just can't imagine there is an in-between. You know, like, I just really doesn't feel that way. I'm going to give this card a... give this card a 5, but, like, God, I mean, maybe it's terrible. Give it a 5. Give it a 5. It's crazy. I mean, like, it's baseline, it's just expensive Charm. It's still okay. And then when you're level 6, it's like very good. It's like just a Charm removal. Yeah. I don't know. Charm's good. This card's probably good. God damn. What is this hunt deck gonna be? This is crazy. And now we have Soul Sword, 1 energy equip for 1 power. Level 3, I have an additional +1, and it gives just +1. So it is a weapon that becomes Doran's Blade at level 3. I think this is probably kind of bad, because I just think the 1 cost, unless you can fit this in your curve in an interesting way, but I would have thought like Obelisk, like pay 2 drop, play 2 drop, play Soul Sword, or something like that, and Obelisk is of course banned. So I don't really see this being good. I'm gonna say it's a 1. I just don't think. I mean, I think if your colors have access to Dorans, which we're thinking of Master Yi is who this is for, I would just play the Dorans instead, where it's just consistently always gonna be the 2. So next up we have Wuju Apprentice, 2 energy, 2 might, hunt 1, and then at level 6 when you play me, draw 1. So this seems like a fine way to try and get early XP that when you draw in the late game, you would expect that you're already level 6, and then it does an additional effect. So this is like exactly the type of 2-drop that I would imagine you want in a deck that needs to farm XP. I would equate this, though, to probably only ever generating you a single XP, which is not that good, but 2-drops that do something in the late game are pretty important, and the fact that this cycles itself in the end game is pretty nice. So I will give this a 4. I expect this to be played in as a 2-drop for the Master Yi decks, if they even play 2-drops. We'll see. They're in green. They could just play Zhonya's and like Guardian Angel. They maybe don't. Now, Ale, Eager Admirer, 3 energy, 3 might, deflect. While I'm at a battlefield, your other units here have deflect. Pretty good counter card if spell decks are super good. I know there's like other ways in the game that you've been able to give everything deflect. There's like Petrocite Monument, and then it was Spirit's Refuge, and neither of them are very good, but I think that's because they're gear. I think being on a unit that you can play on turn 1 going second with an additional effect of having deflect, or you just kind of play somewhere throughout the game when you stack a battlefield and then just give everything deflect, it would be good in a very specific meta. It's not good always. I'll give it a 2 because in a specific meta, it's good, but it's not something that I'm going to be jamming in most decks. Up next is Back Off. Big scary Vex on the image. 3 energy, hidden card. At action speed, stun a unit. If you played this from your hand, draw 1. This very much to me is Power Corrupt's Rune Prison. Yeah, and I know it costs 1 more energy, and that does matter, like Rune Prison having the power cost instead, but it's cycling and drawing and having the option of being hidden is very good. And I think when it comes to deck slots, I feel more likely to play Back Off than I do to play Rune Prison. And I think stun is a powerful keyword, and being able to hide stun is really good. I'll give it a 5. It's like stun cards are really hard to give 5 to because they've never been in a good deck. But I'm gonna give this a 5. I think this card's actually really good for stun synergy. Next we have the Enthusiastic Promoter, 3 energy, 2 might, backline. This is our first backline that we've covered for this video. I must be assigned combat damage last. When I hold, buff all units here. I think this is probably unplayable. I just can't imagine wanting to spend 3 energy on this. Let's just say 1 and move on. I'll eat my words one day, that's fine. But let's just say 1 and move on. Flurry of Feathers, 4 energy, 2 power, reaction speed spell. Choose 1, counter a spell, or play 4 1 might bird unit tokens with deflect. I like modular spells like this. I would never play Windwall again with this existing, I think. So they've printed a new counter spell in green. It's 1 more energy, but the modularity, because Windwall just rots in your hand so frequently. I say never again. I'm sure there's some spots where you do, like some decks where maybe Windwall actually makes sense or a meta. But generally, I think if I was going to like 1 of Windwall, I'd rather 1 of Flurry of Feathers, so that I have the modularity to play these birds. And because it's at reaction speed, you can play this as like +4 might defensively if you are holding, which is kind of cool. Yeah, I think this is a pretty good counterspell. Its cost is probably too steep to be a main deck card, but I'm going to give it a 4-star sideboard card. I think it's pretty good. I really like this modularity direction that a lot of the game is going in. I think those kind of cards are some of my favorites when I do like a limited in Magic, and I think it's really cool that we're getting some of those here. Forgotten Signpost, 2 energy gear. Action, exhaust a unit you control to exhaust this gear. Then move a different unit you control to the location of the unit you exhausted to pay for this ability. So, that's a mouthful, but basically, if you have like a unit at home that's readied all the time, and you send another unit in to conquer, you can then activate Signpost to exhaust the unit that's at home to bring your unit home. And I think this is going to be kind of cool if you've got like a backline unit and that wants to always stay home. It's never going to go to a battlefield. Not backline isn't the keyword. Now I can't use that. Back row, the base unit. And then you can basically use them as like an anchor to always conquer and then come home. If you're in purple, just play Siren, I think. But in green, this is kind of a cool, different way to use mobility and escape. So I don't mind it. I have to give it a rating. It's a 2. I think it's really niche. I don't think it's that good. Friendship spell, 1 cost reaction. Choose a unit. Give it +1 this turn for each of the following tags among your unit: bird, cat, dog, and Poro. So for Ivern, in theory, this is 1 energy +5 at reaction speed. Punch first, eat my heart out. That is kind of Christmas Land, but this card is like really broken if your deck is constantly being able to create the outputs that are going to do this. Yeah, I'll give this a 5. Like, at worst, you're going to have one of these tags out, and it's just better than On Guard, right? Isn't this card just like disgusting? Like, isn't this just giga broken in a deck that wants to do this? What the hell? Is Ivern good because they can play Friendship as punch first? I mean, we'll see. We'll see. This seems very good. All right, up next is Moss Stomper, 3 energy, 1 power, 3 might. Hunt 2, and then at level 3, it gets +1 and deflect. Hunt 2, again, is kind of appealing, but this is the same thing as the Herald of Spring. These cards feel really tough for me to want to play because the effect is really bad until you can get the XP. But Hunt 2, and then it's like a 3-drop with the power cost. So it's not like in that 4-drop power cost tier. 3-drop with a power cost. At least if you're going second, you play on turn 1, you still have 4 energy on the next turn to play your like 4 cost that you want to play. This one's definitely more playable than Herald of Spring, but I'm not excited about it. It's probably a 3. Because you're going to need ways to generate XP, and I'm not seeing a lot of great ones yet, but we'll say 3. Then we got good old Trevor Snooze Bottom, 3 energy, 3 might, shield for 1. When I hold, play a ready 3 might sprite token unit with temporary here. When I hold, you get the sprite token. And then baseline, his base stats are good. The ability is good. Hold triggers are tough. And I'm wondering if we'll have to adjust to a Vex meta where she's maybe consistently able to hold. Or maybe Ari's consistently able to hold with some of these like new cards. Baseline, though, when I hold effects are really hard to feel good. I'm going to give Trevor a 2. I think Trevor's probably not very good, but at least his stats are nice. And the effect, I don't even really think the effect is that good because it's like you hold and you get a sprite token at a battlefield. That's not, I mean, unless you have ganking there or it's like Windswept Illic, it's not that good. Yeah, it's probably not very good. All right, Honey Fruit, 2 energy gear. This enters exhausted. Reaction to exhaust to add a power of any color. And then if you are level 6, it has a reaction to add 1 energy and 1 power. This is our first like pure mana rock, right? Like we have the seals, but now Honey Fruit does enter exhausted, but it's still a turn 1 play that doesn't cost power to then give this effect. I mean, that is a 5. This Honey Fruit's crazy. This has got to be good. I mean, if it's not good in normal standard, I'd still want to play 3 copies in multiplayer, but I think this has got to be good. Even if you have no way to generate XP, I would still consider playing this card. And I think that is crazy to think about. Entering exhausted is rough. I mean, it costs energy, but you really want to see it on turn 1. But I mean, if you have any way to filter or cycle, or you draw a lot, which to play seals in the first place, you would want a lot of draw. So I think it's the same for honey fruit. So like when you can play this, it's just very good. Yeah, this is great. Iacilla, 7 energy, 1 power, 6 might unit. When I hold at the start of your next main phase, you may move an enemy unit to this battlefield. I didn't even know a main phase was a thing. I asked Grenton about this when this card showed up so that he could tell me, the judge that we just did a rules video with. And he's like, oh yeah, the main phase. So it's like after the ABCD. So like after that is like technically your main phase. So you do like ABCD and then you can move this unit in. So I guess that's what it means by start of main phase. Again, hold effects, this is really expensive. I feel like when we're getting to this high of a cost, there's probably better things you can do. The auto charm at the start of every turn with hold can really create some crazy locks, I think, of your opponent, but I think it's like very win more. So I doubt that it's actually going to see much play because it's so win more. So I'm going to give this a 1. I don't think this is actually going to be very playable. I think it requires too good of a position already to actually do good things. I will say, if you get locked up by this, you're going to feel like it's broken, but I don't think it's very good. Up next is one of the options for Ivern's chosen champion, Ivern Nurturer. 5 energy, 1 power, 4 might. When you play me or when I hold, look at the top 3 cards of your main deck. You may reveal a unit from among them and draw it. Recycle the rest. Then if you revealed a bird, cat, dog, or Poro, do this, buff a friendly unit. I think for 5 energy and a power for 4, it drawing a card that has to be a unit and then potentially giving a buff. So I guess it can buff itself. So it's like 5 and 1 for 5. And then it draws a card. It's reminiscent of Ornn Blacksmith, and that card was not very good. The synergy of this deck, the tribal synergy, makes me not want to hate this, because you do need to find the different bird, cat, dogs, poros, all that stuff. But I think this is probably not very good. I'm gonna give it a 1. I think it's probably not going to see play, unless the yellow one is like way worse. But I think this is not going to see play. Next up, we have Nami Headstrong, 3 energy, 3 might. You may pay 1 power as an additional cost to pay me. When you play me, if you paid the additional cost, stun an enemy unit. When I hold, the next time you play a unit this turn, ready it and buff it. Wow, that is a hold effect. You want a hold effect? That is a hold effect. Ready it and buff it so that you can conquer the other side. This is crazy Leona support, by the way. So it has a when you play me stun, so you can already get the buff from the stun. And then if she holds on your next turn, you're going to get to play like a ready Leona Determined, or like ready, some of these strong other like units where Leona, her issue was always being really slow and not having enough access to like readying things. But this is a hold trigger, which again, hold triggers are very hard, but that is a hell of a hold trigger. I'll give Nami a 4. I think this is a really cool effect, and it comes on a vanilla unit that is fine statted, so it's just like everything else is gravy. And if you can find some good use, I think the on-play effect will find some good use. And if it doesn't, then you can maybe even just use the hold effect. It's really, really good. God, if any hold thing was ever going to get a 5 from me, it might have been her, but I think a 4 is correct. All right, Scuttle Crab, 5. But yeah, it's a 2 energy, 0 might unit. It says just there's some text here that says units with 0 might can conquer and hold, which you should know, but maybe you didn't. And it says when you play me, draw 1. So already replace it itself. It says Death Knell, choose an opponent, they reveal their hand. You can look at their face down cards this turn and gain 1 XP. So reveal all their hidden cards, or at least, reveal them to you. You know what they are. You know their whole hand. And realistically, like if you play this in the early game, it replaces itself. It might conquer anyway. If it doesn't, it's still just going to eventually die to something and then get a lot of value. This always gets value. It's a 5. This card is very good. I expect it to be a staple of a lot of green decks. Next up is Trixie Tentacles, 4 energy, 1 power. Move any number of enemy units with the same controller and a total might of 8 or less to a single location. So it's like AoE charm, but it can't hit everything. It's pretty expensive for like that charm type effect. And I think oftentimes in deck building, it's going to be hard to fit Trixie Tentacles, and instead you'd probably just end up playing Charm. So I don't see a lot of reasons why I'm going to want to play Trixie Tentacles. Could do like Ari, because she gives the -1 to everything, which is pretty nice. It also has the ability to move everything away from a battlefield so you can reconquer, whereas Charm can only move 1 unit, which is pretty good. I think it's probably a 3. It's situationally kind of good. At base level, it's a really expensive Charm, but it's probably going to do more than that. Yeah, it's a 3. I'm struggling to think about in deck building how I'd fit it, but it probably would come in as like a 1 of somewhere. Next, we have Vex Mocking. This is one of the potential chosen champions for Vex. 5 energy, 1 power, 5 might. She has shield and tank, and when you stun an enemy unit at a battlefield, you may move me to that battlefield. Very cool. Kind of feels like Vex Ultimate, in the sense that like her signature spell, Gloomy, is gonna stun something, and then Vex is gonna like teleport into that effect, which is kind of neat. It's like exactly kind of how the ultimate works. However, shield tank 5. I unfortunately know that the other version is going to be a lot better, but there's also some good spots for this, maybe in Leona, maybe some other stun archetypes, where this kind of gets to be an accelerate unit, like pseudo accelerate unit, because you go in and stun, you play her and then you push forward Leona Determined and you bring her in. It's probably a 3. Like, this is a pretty playable card, but it's not terribly exciting for me as a whole. Very cool card, though. Really flavorful, does some really cool stuff. Right. The next up is Yumi, Magical Cat. 3 energy, 1 might, 1 power cost as well. A champion unit that has Cat as a tag, so for Ivern to look at. When I attack or defend, give one of your other units here +3 might and tank this turn. So trying to have that attach feature, I feel like for Yumi, I would have rather see her be like a unit that actually can attach, like a gear. But this is, flavor-wise, as close as we can get to that. I don't like a lot of these units that are 1 might baseline and then doing something. I think the fact that they can't do anything on their own and they cost a decent amount, I'm going to give Yumi a 1. I don't think this card is going to be super playable. It's possible Ivern has to because he needs a critical mass of cats in his deck, but I don't see this card being very good. And we've got the Epics, Alpha Wildclaw, 6 energy, 2 power, 7 might. This is another cat for Ivern to look at with tank. It says your units here with less might than me can't be chosen by enemy spells and abilities. So if you're swarming, this is good against like Kaisa's Acathian Rain, against, Falling Star, against really, anything like that. So no spell's going to be able to target. The stats are a little bit, they're okay. 6 energy for 7 might, but the power cost is pretty steep. This card's not too bad, but it's also not too good. I think it's a 3. I think the not being able to choose stuff with spells is going to be really relevant, and it's going to help the like tribal nature of what Ivern wants to do. But end of the day, I think you're just going to want to target this with spells anyway, because it's probably the biggest threat at the battlefield. So next, we've got another chosen champion potential of Lilia, Protector of Dreams. So 1 for Lilia. 5 energy, 4 might. When you play a token unit, give me +1 this turn. Your token units have tank. And then, Lilia making all those sprites. Sprites with tank sounds great. I mean, they have temporary, but having tank as well. And this is a no power cost potential chosen champion. I really like this card. The +1 is not going to be that relevant, probably. It's going to be a little bit. I mean, she's probably 5 for 5. It just brings her back up to rate. And then there's niche cases where it says just token unit. So if you can generate a bunch of recruits in like a green-yellow deck, maybe there's some cool stuff to do there. This is probably a 4. Pretty decent chosen champion. Not insane, but pretty good. Next, we have another potential chosen champion. This is Master Yi Unstoppable. 12 energy, 12 might, 3 power cost. That seems crazy, but his text is at level 3, he costs 2 energy and a power less. At level 6, he costs 4 energy and 2 power less. At level 11, he costs 6 energy and 3 power less. And at level 16, he can't be chosen by enemy spells and abilities. Really, the one I'm looking for is level 11, because then he would be 6 energy, no power, 12 might, and for Master Yi, Wuju Master, he'd actually be 13 might and enter ready for 6, which is insanity. So kind of an interesting late game bomb for the deck that in theory could exist in the Chosen Champ Zone and sit there all game, but also could just be something that you slot into the deck as a potential late game out. I don't think this card is incredibly good. It requires a lot of effort, but I will say once you get to a level 11, it's pretty broken. I'll say that it is just a 3, though. It seems like it's probably playable in Yi if you are generating a lot of, levels, because even reducing it by 4 and 2, it's like 8 energy for 13 might in that case, and that's not that bad. That's actually pretty good, honestly. Yeah, it's just unplayable if you don't get to level 6, so it depends on a lot of stuff, but the card seems good. I'll give it a 3. Next up, 5. No, it's Vile Maw. 8 energy, 2 power, 8 might. Ambush, which is, kind of like Dead Bloom, but already kind of a little better, maybe. This is that reaction speed. Enemy units here with less might than me don't deal combat damage. When I hold, draw 1. Enemy units here with less might than me don't deal combat damage. That seems just very good in colors that can buff might very easily. Like green? Yeah. Seems good. Counter spells to protect this? Yeah. Seems good. Why does this have ambush? Why does this have any other text but the second line? I don't know. Seems really good. I'm looking at Vile Mod X straight up. That seems really strong. I want to play this card. And that is the best card in green and the last card of green. So next up, we will be moving on towards Blue Mind. It's coming up next. And we'll start things off with Downstage Dramatics. We had Upstage Comedy, now we've got Downstage Dramatics. 2 energy, reaction, repeat for 2, draw 1. So it is 4 energy, draw 2, a reaction speed, which is the same as Consult the Past, if you play the repeat. But it has modularity to just draw 1 instead for 2. Consult can be hidden, this cannot. Why would I ever want to play this over Consult? I mean, it's for Jin. It's just more like draw to reaction speed stuff, right? For Jin. But it's like has some... Yeah, what is... I don't get it. It's a 1. I don't get it. Somebody can explain why you would actually care about the repeat. I mean, repeat can be reduced by like Purple Ezreal. That's kind of neat for like Diana or Ezreal, right? Those are okay, wait, I figured it out. Those are reasons that you'd want to do it. Okay, it's a 2. It's a 2 then. Yeah. Is it a 3? No, it's a 2. It's fine. It's fine. It's okay. Dramatic Visionary for 4 energy, 4 might unit. Death Knell Predict 2. When I die, look at the top 2 cards of your main deck, recycle any of them and put the rest back in any order. Predict is like what Vision always should have been. A bit better than Vision. I just don't think this is worth the squeeze. 4 for 4 is fine, but I just don't know that the Death Knell Predict is something that I care too much about. So I'm just going to give this a 1. I don't really think there's any decks I'd want to slot this in. Next up is Eclipse. 3 energy reaction. Give a unit -4 this turn and then predict. So it's Smokescreen, but you don't have to worry about the power cost. And then for Diana, I mean, she's in the yard. It makes sense for Diana. You're going to get that extra energy when you're in a showdown. So if you go into a showdown and then your Eclipse becomes 2 energy with no power cost plus the predict, and it doesn't have the minimum of 1 clause, which is going to matter. So I think this is often going to be better than Smokescreen for those decks, and will probably take the slot that Smokescreen maybe would have. And with that being said, I'll probably give this a 3. I think it's a good card, but I don't think it's like a broken card that's going to be everywhere. And it mightn't even be a staple. Like, I could see this get cut in a lot of metas. It's just going to be meta-dependent good card. Next, we have Fate Weaver, 5 energy, 4 might. When you play me, look at the top 4 cards of your main deck. You may reveal a spell with energy cost 4 or more from among them and draw it. Recycle the deck. If Jin needs more card draw that is like very targeted, I think these effects tend to just not be good enough for the might that's printed on the units. I think over and over again, we're seeing these cards that have a similar effect. And yeah, the might's just not enough. It's like the juice isn't worth the squeeze. You want to find other ways to draw cards instead. But unit that draws one is at least reasonable. I'll give it a 2. It's not like the worst card, but yeah, it's like very conditional draw as well. You theoretically can whiff even if you're building your deck to have a lot of 4s. Yeah, it's not very good. Iceveil Archer, 2 energy, 2 might. When I attack, you may pay 1 to give a unit -1 this turn. A unit here -1 this turn. That's kind of nice for just early game trades, but it's not that valuable. It's still like just a 3 might in theory 2-drop. This is probably not going to see play. This is probably a 1 as well. It's just not going to see a lot of play. Not really that worthwhile. Moonlight Affliction, 7 energy spell. Reaction, give a unit -10 this turn. Oh, this is tough. This is really expensive. I mean, 7 energy. The effect is obviously like good. Like you are just winning combat if you -7 somebody or -10 somebody. But like, I mean, 7 energy. Do I really want to play this? Probably not. I probably don't. It's a 1. I probably just don't want to play this. It's just too much for this effect. Like you can play Frigid Touch, you can play Eclipse, you can play, and usually that's going to be enough. This is just like overkill. Yeah, I don't think it's good. Ruined Rex, 6 energy, 1 power, 6 might. Death Knell, deal 4 to an enemy unit. So this is Riptide Rex, but he's been got by the Ruination. He does less damage, but he costs less power. And he can hit backline instead of just at battlefield. The problem is it's Death Knell not on play. So what I'll say is in LeBlanc, you can duplicate this effect, which becomes pretty good, I think. On a Conquer or Hold with the Ruined Rex, you can kind of duplicate him. You get the ping from the reflection when it dies to deal 4 to an enemy unit. I think that's pretty good. I don't know if it's going to make the cut, because I think the deck has a lot of really good ideas with to be able to play around Death Knells. But I'll give it a 3 because I think it's like pretty playable in LeBlanc. And has like different reasons that you would play it over Riptide Rex, and the power cost being less is probably worthwhile. Spectral Centaur, 6 energy, 5 might. When another friendly unit dies, give me +2 this turn. Really funny like Victor ideas for Swarm Victor, where you like sacrifice a bunch of tokens or whatever, and then Spectral Centaur is just like huge. But I think that's probably like in for fun tier instead of actually being good. So I'll give Spectral Centaur a 1. I don't think you want to play this card. Unless you want to play him in multiplayer, then you maybe want to play this card, but yeah. So the Sprite Burst, 5 energy, play 2 ready 3 might sprite unit tokens with temporary. Yeah, I mean, it's just a reduction on sprite call, but it doesn't have the modularity of being hidden in action speed. So instead of playing 2 sprite calls, you're getting to play 1 sprite burst. And then also with Lilia, this does reduce the Lilia down to 2 because you have 2 sprite tokens. So at 7 energy, you're making 3 sprites, which is like 7 energy for like 9 might accelerated, plus any other like combos you have. This seems like quite playable, but not that good. It's probably closer to a 2, and then maybe there's a strategy that really can abuse spamming the sprites that makes it a 3. But even then, yeah, I don't think it's that good overall. Turn to Dust, a 2 energy spell, give a gear temporary. It's Fading Memories, but it not modular like Fading Memories is. But it's a lot cheaper. Great way to kill Aurora in blue. But blue has like main deckable Rocket Barrage into like if Aurora's meta irrelevant. So I don't know that this is going to be a card that you really want, but it is just like a different way that you can deal with gear if you need to. These are always really hard to rate. It's a sideboard card. It's probably a 3. It seems playable if the only thing you need to do is like kill gear, and specifically non-equipment gear, then Turn to Dust is pretty reasonable. Chakram Dancer, 3 energy, 3 might, ambush. When you play me, give your other units here shield this turn. So a very defensive ambusher that wants to have some swarmed units and then give them all +1. I think this card is probably not going to find a home, but it would be in like a Swarm Victor deck that maybe looks to hold, even plays around his signature spell or something, but that's not a deck that really exists right now, and I'm going to say that this is a 1. Crescent Strike, 3 energy, 1 power, spell, action, choose a battlefield and an enemy there, deal 4 to that unit and 1 to each other enemy unit. A spell that just does 4 at a battlefield, already good. This is like Void Seeker, so again, meta dependent on what breakpoints are really good, but also another potential sideboard answer to like Swarm decks, dealing a lot of damage to these battlefields. Yeah, it does something a little bit different. This is niche playable, it's probably a 3. Next, we have Deadly Flourish, 4 energy spell, deal 3 to an enemy unit. When it dies this turn, play a gold gear token exhausted. It doesn't have a restriction of battlefield, but it's like Wages of Pain, but it is slow speed and no restriction of battlefield. It very much is like you're playing this to trigger Jin. That is why, because the card is somewhat worse than a lot of your other options, but it is no power cost way to trigger Jin and generates that gold, which is kind of nice. This is probably a 2 for me. I don't think it's going to be very good, but maybe Jin does play it if he needs to increase his 4 count. And if the meta has a lot of like backliners at 3 might that you actually need to deal with, then Deadly Flourish is good in those cases. Frigid Jewel, gear for 2 energy. When you draw your second card each turn, give a friendly unit +2 this turn. You know, if Cold Shot wasn't banned, I could see some opportunities for like Ezreal or Diana to play this. Maybe Ezreal still can, because Ezreal will probably often still draw 2 cards in many different turns. But I think this is not going to overall be that worthwhile. It's probably a 1, but yeah, it's probably just a 1. There's maybe some spots where you're trying to avoid combats, and this is a good like turn 1 play that will get value later, but yeah, I don't really think this card's very good. Gustwalker, 3 energy, 1 power, 3 might units with Hunt 2, and then at level 3, it has +1 and ganking. So we see kind of a cycle of these beasts that are giving... Oh, these are the jungle pets. I actually didn't even realize that. But this is giving like different keywords that come along with the level 3. I still don't think these are very good, and there's not a really great reason in blue that I would be trying to get levels, so this is a 1. Petal Pixie, 2 energy, 2 might units. I have +1 might for each of your units with temporary at my battlefield. I think that there are probably better 2-drops to play. This is a very niche upside that you're getting, and you would need to be a very heavy sprite spam deck for Lilia to make this work. So I'm going to give it a 1. I don't think this is actually something you even want in Lilia, and if you don't want it in Lilia, when do you want it? Soul Shepherd, 5 energy, 3 might, your token units have +1. Well, that is a good anthem for a token spam Victor, Lilia to give the sprites, but it is expensive and attached to a unit that can be removed with 3 might, which is... It's funny, we haven't said died to Falling Star in a while, but, you know, it dies to Falling Star. It dies to... We just saw that Flourish card, the Deadly Flourish. It dies to some of these things. It's going to struggle. I don't often want to play 5 energy for a unit that I need to back row. It feels a bit tough. Yeah, maybe there's a world that this is a really good Anthem effect if you already have a bunch of... Like, you've already made 10 recruits, and then you play Soul Shepherd, and this is just like a combat trick for 5 for +10 might. And I think that kind of way, this is a good card, so it's a 3. Because it's going to be playable in some kind of token spam deck. I don't know that deck is going to exist or not, but yeah, it's got some playability. Sprite Fountain, a 2 energy, 1 power gear with temporary. When you play this, play a ready 3 might sprite unit token with temporary to your base. Death Knell, repeat this gear's effect. Wait, isn't that just pretty good? You just like get double value with less cost than Sprite's Call? The power cost is annoying if you want to play this kind of early in the game, but this seems pretty nice. Just get like a steady stream of sprites each turn. I think this is like a 4. I think this card's pretty like solid. Yeah, I think this card's good. You get like 6 might of value. It's spread out on turns, but yeah, it's pretty good. All right, Diana Lunari, first chosen champion option for Diana. We're seeing 3 energy, 3 might. When a showdown begins here, you may pay 1. If you do, predict, then reveal the top card of your main deck. If it's a spell, draw it. A chosen champion that can be played on turn 1 of going second games is already pretty nice. And in a showdown, Diana is already going to have that like +1 energy. So you can kind of like use that outlet if you don't have something to spend it on, and it gives you card draw. With predict, I think your spell density is going to be pretty high anyways. You should usually be able to find a spell. So this is probably pretty good, but not insane. So I'll give it a 3. Like, it's a pretty good card. I don't think if it's not going in the chosen champion zone, I doubt it's going in the main deck. And that is where this becomes a 3 instead of something like a 4. Hui, Brooding Painter, 5 energy, 1 power, 5 might. When I move, draw 1, then discard. Then do the following based on the discarded card's type. For a spell, you get to draw 1. For a gear, you get to ready up to 2 runes. And for a unit, you give him +3 this turn. And remember, this is draw 1, then discard 1. So you're choosing this discard. It's not like a random discard. So if you need 3 might on a turn, you need this to be an 8 might guy. You just throw away a unit. If you need some extra runes to cast a spell, you can get rid of a gear. This comes down to if you have all of these different cards, but yeah, the effect's pretty good. Move 1, draw 1, discard 1, draw another if you discard a spell. Really good filtering options. Yeah, Hui's like a 4 for me. I think this card's kind of good. I don't know what deck this goes into, which is going to, that struggles a little bit for where I'm going to try and fit this, but yeah, I like the concept of Hui, and maybe a Hui legend down the line gets some real value out of Brooding Painter. Keeper of Masks, 2 energy, 1 might hidden with temporary. It's a unit. When you play me, play 2 reflections of reflection unit tokens here. They become copies of me. When you play me, so it becomes 3. This is like just trying to get a bunch of temporary units at a location. So that 2-drop that gets +1 based on the number of temporary units you have is kind of nice with Keeper of Masks. It also reduces Lilia's ability if you do it like offensively as far as that cost. And if you respond to the trigger of playing the reflection tokens with like a buff, I think they would stay onto the reflections. I don't know. That's really hard to say. I think this is probably good, but it seems like you need a lot of synergy, so I'm gonna give it a 2. Yeah, I think it's a 2. I think it needs a lot of synergy to try and make it actually do something good, and I want my cards to just do something good unless the high synergy is doing something broken, and I don't know that it is doing something broken. Lilia Fae Fawn is the other potential Lilia chosen champion. 3 energy, 3 might. Accelerate. When I move from a location, play a 3 might sprite there. It's not a ready sprite. Play a 3 might sprite unit token with temporary there. It's not ready. So when you accelerate Lilia in, she's not going to leave a readied sprite token to go conquer the other side. This is more about retreating from a battlefield and leaving a sprite there to defend. But I think chosen champion wise, turn 1 play or a turn 2 accelerate option, I'll give her a 4. I think this is probably a pretty good card for the Lilia deck. It's also going to reduce her legend ability, which is, I think, important whenever she moves. Smoke and Mirrors, 2 energy spell with hidden at action speed. You can choose a unit you control and another unit you control at a different location. If at least one of them has temporary, move each to the other's location. So you can swap, and then it has draw 1 afterwards. So you can swap your reflection into like a combat area, right? So one of the cool things with LeBlanc is her reflections enter ready. So LeBlanc can maybe conquer, make a reflection, send the reflection home and hide the smoke and mirrors, and then use the smoke and mirrors to swap the real unit to safety and swap the reflection in to defend is just like one basic way that this works. I think this card is very powerful because it also requires a lot of high synergy, but it does replace itself is very good. I don't think it's going to do anything broken, but I think it'll be a staple. I think it's a 4. I think this will be really staple in LeBlanc. All right. Now I got Sprite Queen up next. 7 energy, 1 power, 6 might. It says, when you play me or at the start of your beginning phase, play a ready 3 might Sprite unit token with temporary to your base. So when you play me, doing it is a really important thing, I think, because getting the Sprite immediately to interact with the board means it's not horribly slow. And potentially you can even just like score a point with the Sprite that keeps you on point tempo. And then for your next like turn cycle, you have a Sprite Queen that's like spawning a Sprite as well. I think she's good. 6 might is a little dubious. It can be removed by a lot of things. But if those removal spells are not in the meta to kill 6 might, I would give this a 4. I think it becomes really tough if there's a lot of removal in the meta that can deal with her because it's going to feel really hard to actually play this out. But I'll give her a 4. And we'll see where that goes. It's, you know, there could be a meta where she is unplayable and then a meta where she is amazing. Sumpworks map 2 energy gear. Reaction temporary when an opponent scores, draw 1. So you play this if your opponent is going to double conquer on a turn, and then it is 2 energy, draw 2. Which is better than 4 energy, draw 2, which we often see. Is this low-key just very good? Like, is this just really strong, actually? It requires your deck to be like a double conquer deck that's like trading points and playing for point tempo, and then you're using this as like a refill. But I think I'm gonna give this card a 5, and I'm either gonna be extremely correct or extremely wrong. That's what we're gonna do. Let's do that. Either extremely correct or extremely wrong. And then we'll go on to the next one, which is Zillion Time Mage, 5 energy, 1 power, 5 might. Once per turn, if you would play a token unit while I'm at a battlefield, you may play that token and an additional copy of it instead. While I'm at a battlefield is the operative word here, and it's once each turn. I think this is too slow, and it's a 2, but this effect can do a really powerful thing. Something to look out for. It's definitely a kill on sight. You can't let him stay at a battlefield, a very powerful ability. But yeah, I think probably not good enough. On to the epics. 4 energy, 1 power, 4 might. Blue Sentinel. Shield to your hold effects for holding here. Trigger an additional time. When I hold, add a power at the start of your next main phase. What I'll say is, I gave the Brambleback the 5 like future stuff with the conquer triggers. Holding historically in Riftbound is a hell of a lot harder than conquering. I think that this has some really powerful stuff that it does. The additional hold effects. It is shield 2. So if you conquer somewhere and play the Blue Sentinel, it is going to be hard to move. But I can't give it a 5 because its hold effects not... You know what? Yes, I can. This is my show. I do whatever I want on this show. I'll give it a 5. And this is similar reasons to Brambleback. Doubling effects, or an additional time, right? It's not technically doubling, but doing it an additional time on effects is just very powerful, and it is prone to people finding ways to break it. And I don't think that the cost on this for the amount of might you are getting on defense is at all unreasonable. It's actually very reasonable. It's quite good. So yeah, I could see this being strong. Gutter Palace, 4 energy gear at the start of your beginning phase. If you have exactly 4 cards in hand, exactly 4 units at battlefields, you win the game. Discard 1 to exhaust. Play a 1 might bird unit token with deflect. I'm going to give this a 5 because really attractive, awesome, sick, nasty YouTube channel that everybody loves revealed this card. But also, it has the text win the game. And I think if at some point cards like this break, whether that happens in Unleashed, who knows? But if it gets to the point where people are consistently making this win condition happen without the opponent being able to stop it very easily, then yeah, this card is, it's going to be really disgusting. As of right this second, though, like the disclaimer on this 5 is like we're probably not going to see a Gutter Palace deck like dominate anytime soon. All right. Now, Jin's other potential chosen champion, Jin Meticulous Killer, 4 energy, 4 might, vision. So you can look at the top card of the deck when you play him. And he has, if you've spent 4 energy or more to play a spell this turn, you play him for 1 power. We have seen this before. We have seen playing units for cheap costs just power before and it being good. We've seen Nocturne not be the best, but still pretty decent. And then we've seen like Battering Ram and Rasa and all that. I think this is going to be insane. And at worst, it is a 4 cost, no power play from the champ zone for Jin. I'm going to give him a 5. I think this will be a staple in Jin decks. And I think that, there might be some Miracle Jin angles, some really cool stuff you can do with Jin Meticulous Killer. The final card for blue, LeBlanc, everywhere at once. 4 energy, 4 might, backline. Your temporary effects at my battlefield don't trigger. And did I mention it's a 4 energy for 4 might from the champion zone? It's a 5. She sounds so good. She has backline, so she's protected by these temporary units that you don't care if they die anyway, because you're, like they would have died no matter what. But now they don't even trigger, so if your opponent doesn't deal with them, they just last forever. Yeah, I mean, this is just very strong. I think this is going to be definitely chosen champion material for LeBlanc, and it is going to be maybe one of the reasons that the deck is incredibly powerful. All right, moving on to body now. Orange for Unleashed. We've got Concentrate as the first one. 5 energy spell, draw 2, or at level 6, it would cost 2 less, so it would cost 3, and at level 11, it costs 4 less instead, so it costs 1. So 1 energy draw 2, insane. 3 energy draw 2 is fine, and like it's good. And 5 energy draw 2 is really bad. I think you're going to have to pick your battles with what cards you can have as payoffs and which cards you need to get actual XP. And because there's a card you'd want to play late game anyway, I think this is going to be really solid as like a one of, but I don't think this is going to be like a staple card. I'm going to give it a 2. You're going to want card draw in some way in these colors, but I think that, yeah, at most this ends up being a one of somewhere in your deck that you're hoping that you just like see in the end game to refill for cheap. Next up is Demacian Diplomat. This is a 2-drop for 2 might. When you play me, gain 1 XP. Just unconditional gain 1 XP, not having to worry about hunt. This seems like a good way to kind of start your game up, trying to get some of the experience that you need as Master Yi. It's probably very playable as a 2, but it doesn't. It's just the means to an end of getting to that 6 XP, because that's when your legend ability actually comes online. I'll give it a 2. It's not very good, but it is maybe a necessary evil, depending on what other options you've got. Up next is Dragon Soul Sage, 2 energy, 1 might. Reaction to exhaust to add 1 energy. So this is like, I don't know, for the Magic players, what is this? Like Llanowar Elves is the one that's like famous. This is like a mana dude. Really good. I mean, I think that's solid. I think a dude that it becomes, that just is giving energy every turn. This is a really good ramp 2-drop that potentially, if needed, can be used to go conquer and score points in a pinch. I'm going to give this a 5, and I wonder if there will be decks that can really abuse this. The curve of going this on turn 1 into playing a 5 cost, I think is something that is interesting, or a 6 cost if you were going second. There's some really interesting things that are opened up by Dragon Soul Sage. Gemhand Hunter, 2 energy, 2 might. Hunt. When I conquer, hold, gain 1 XP. Level 6, I have +1. So I think this is worse than the on-play one on average. Like end game, it's better because it's +1, but getting the conquer, hold for 1 XP is tough. Well, okay, do I think it's worse, actually? I probably don't, because the hunt one, it's probably getting the 1 conquer. And so they're both kind of giving 1 XP, but this says upside. So maybe this is actually just a 3, where the Demacian Diplomat's a 2. They're probably, at the end of the day, they're just both 2s. They're both not very good, but this one might be slightly better than the other. And we'll go from there. Grim Resolve, 2 energy, action. Give a friendly unit +3 this turn. When it wins a combat this turn, gain 2 XP. This seems fine. The +3 at action speed, not reaction speed hurts this. It's not as good. But this is a good way to generate some experience. Getting +2 on a combat win. Usually you're going to be able to create a combat win, and the cost is not too steep to actually get some value from this combat trick. I'll give it a 3. It's very playable for these XP decks, but it's not incredible by any means. Next, we have Hunter's Machete. This is a 3 energy equip for +2. The equip is just 1 power, and then it gives Hunt. And I think this is going to be maybe a bread and butter way of generating XP for these decks. I'm going to give this a... It's a 4, because you need ways to generate XP, and this gives a consistent way to utilize better units instead of having to use a bunch of units that have Hunt or like generate XP incidentally. And instead you can play just like better units and then give them a +2 that also allows them to hunt. Next we have Kinku Initiate, 3 energy, 3 might. When you play me, draw 1 if your other units have total 5 might 5 or more. Total might 5. Total might of 5 or more. It feels weirdly written, but maybe I just read weird. I just don't, like it conditionally replaces itself. That's kind of okay. I just don't see this earning a slot in many decks, so I'll give it a 1. Just not very good. Not very impressed by the idea. Targonian Visionary, 6 energy, 6 might. Level 11, I have +4. Yeah, it's like on rate, and then it gets to be good in the end game. With Master Yi, when you're level 11, this suddenly becomes a 6 for 11 accelerated, which is really stupid. Yeah, if it's good enough to play in the early game, then it can fit in that deck, but I have to imagine this is a 1 and it's not a card worth playing. But yeah, it gets really silly if getting to level 11 is easy enough for the deck. But yeah, we'll say 1. Towering Combatant, 4 energy, 3 might, shield 2, and tank. Decent value when played to be a holder. With old Master Yi, this one's kind of crazy. It's like a 7. So you'd like conquer with your 2-drop, then you'd play Towering Combatant and retreat your 2-drop, and then it's just like a 7, which is kind of cool. But yeah, it's not very good. I think it's a 1. I probably just I'm not wanting to play this to set up too many holds. I guess it's nice with like cheap hunt units because it has tank. So if you conquer with like the hunt unit and you get the trigger of hunt, and then you play Towering Combatant on your turn 2 to defend it, then you would also get the hold and you generate more XP. But I'm not convinced that I would want to play it, so it's a 1. Voracious Gromp, 5 energy, 5 might, Hunt 3. Hunt 3 is like, that's quick generation if you can get this thing sticking around. The problem is it's a vanilla unit with that Hunt, so it's going to be really hard to get value. And for that reason, I'm going to give this a 1. I think Hunt 3 is amazing. That's great, but it needs a lot of help. Maybe it can turbo you to level 11, and that's really good, but it just needs so much help to actually make that happen. Call to Battle, 3 energy spell, move a unit you control to a battlefield you control, then choose an opponent, they move a unit they control to the same battlefield. This is the same as the Kha'Zix spell, right? But it's 3 energy instead of 2 and a power. Yeah, I don't know. It's good to create a fight, especially for someone like Kha'Zix who's going to get a combat. Oh, it's to a battlefield I control. That's the difference, not just 2 battlefields. So it's more like Charm. It's more like Charm because you need to control the battlefield, and then you're just reinforcing a battlefield and then moving a unit. Seems okay. It doesn't seem that good. I'll give it a 2. It's like expensive Charm. It's maybe playable. It's not that insane. Crowd Favorite, 3 energy, 3 might, Hunt, spend 2 XP to buff me. I don't think that outlet is that good enough, but it does have Hunt. And you want it some XP gen, maybe more like a Kha'Zix card, definitely. Like, you don't want any expenditures for Yi, so more like a Kha'Zix card or a Poppy card. Well, Poppy, no, she wants to spend XP to draw, so more like a Kha'Zix card, because he can, like, he'll have a lot more XP for other outlets. It's still just like a 1. I don't think I want to be generating that many buffs on this one guy. Maybe if there's more buff payoffs like really far in the future, then I could see it, but there's still not enough buff payoffs in my opinion. Disposal order, 2 energy spell reaction, choose 1, choose up to 3 cards from opponent's trashes, their owners recycle them, draw 1. With Miracle getting nerfed, this becomes a lot less enticing. This would have been a great tech card to deal with trash synergy type stuff. Still good against like decks that play Fizz, if Fizz is still like a really popular card. Then there's still ways that this is good, but it's a sideboard card and it's like a 2 because draw 1, so it's just cycling. Yeah, it's not a great sideboard option. I prefer the stupid sexy Forge Workers for this, but it's in a different color, so it gives orange a way to kind of deal with it. So dealing with trash. Next, we've got the Gentle Gem Dragon, 8 energy, 8 might. When you play me or another dragon, ready up to 2 runes. I mean, dragons they're eating good. They're getting some more synergy, and I think that there is a world that a dragon deck exists now. Not because of this dragon, but because we've just been getting more and more dragons over the course of a little while, and so you can play the Herald of Scales, and then you can start playing these dragons out, and this is going to allow you to have spell follow-up after playing a big unit. Volibear dragons might be like a very real deck going forward. I'll say that this is still just like a 2. Like, I don't really want to play this anywhere else, but like in the context of a full dragon synergy deck, it's not too bad of a unit to be playing. Next up, we've got Imposing Challenger, 5 energy, 5 might. When I move, you may move an enemy unit here with less might than me to a different battlefield. Really cool card in that it is a move trigger. So this should be able to actually move Overzealous Fan to another battlefield so that it doesn't stop Imposing Challenger from pushing in and conquering a stacked Fan battlefield. Now, that still changes this whole dynamic of like that other battlefield, if you control it, the Fan is still going to like trigger, and if you don't control it, then you're just like giving the Fan a conquer or something like that. But also, this works as a way to kill multiple small units where you control one battlefield, and then Imposing Challenger moves in, pushes a small unit to go die to whatever unit you're controlling the other battlefield with, and then kills whatever unit is remaining, and you like win 2 combats, and you're like removing a lot of small stuff. So I think this card's actually really good, but it is meta dependent and potentially just like sideboard, but definitely a really cool Kha'Zix card for getting like additional combats and some cool stuff to do. So I'll go to 3. I think this is definitely like a reasonable card. Next, we have Repulse, 1 energy, 1 power, reaction speed spell. Choose a friendly unit at a battlefield, counter an enemy spell or ability that chooses it, and no other friendly unit. So it's a very specific type of counter spell, but it does lead into the flavor of orange in trying to force unit combats from happening. And one of the best examples for this being a good counter to is Rebuke, which has been a bane of orange for forever. I mean, since the game came out, it has been a bane for orange. And I think that this is, a pretty nice counter spell. It's a 3. It's not crazy. There's nothing insane about this counter spell, but it is like a nice way to help orange against some of these like push effects and bounce effects. Next is Stare Down, 2 energy spell. Choose a friendly unit and a battlefield. Move all enemy units at that battlefield with less might than the chosen unit to their base and gain 1 XP. So against more swarm-oriented decks that are trying to hold, you can prevent their hold and just conquer immediately. The problem is a lot of like early games I think are going to be tough for Stare Down to be good, and I think that's why it like gives an XP, so it does something additional. But I think, yeah, it's going to be a struggle for this card to actually be really strong. It's good in the late game. It's going to have issues early in the game. I think it's a 1. I don't know that I want to play Stare Down. Willy Newtfish, 4 energy, 4 might. If you've gained XP this turn, I have 1 might and plus 1 might and yanking. This one's probably a 1 for me. We saw this similar with, I keep wanting to call them Jawl Hunters, but I don't think they had the same name as Jawl Hunters. It was the same art as Jawl Hunters, but that's okay. the purple card that gets like +1 when it moves around. So it's yeah. So the Willy Newtfish is similar idea to that card, but it's just I don't think that card was ever good. I don't think Willy Newtfish is very good either. Blood Rose, 1 energy. When you play a unit, you may pay 1 to gain 1 XP. Spend 3 XP. Ready a unit. So, I mean, that is a very good way to generate a lot of XP for someone like Master Yi if they want to play a lot of units and they have extra energy to get there. And then also, I think for Kha'Zix, it's going to generate a lot of XP already baseline, right? Because of his legend ability. And if the Blood Rose lets him generate a little more XP, you actually could use the spend to ready units and it'd be really good. So I could see this twofold being a good card. It's just, does it do enough? I'm going to give it a 3. I think it's pretty playable, but it's probably not going to be too broken or anything. I think Kha'Zix has the most likely chance to like abuse this and make it really, really strong. Clash of Giants. Choose 2 units. They deal damage equal to their mights to each other. 6 energy, 2 power. A lot of people looked at this as like, this is just challenge, but terrible. Except for the fact that you can choose 2 enemy units. They don't have to be 2, like a friendly unit and an enemy unit. So in the niche circumstances where there's a lot of like Aurora type decks going around or decks that are playing a lot of like very big units, Clash of Giants can be really valuable in clearing 2 things. Even in like the meta we've currently been in with the Rasa spam on the board, being able to say like Clash of Giants kill 2 Rasas is like actually kind of a reasonable thing for that cost. It's basically like you cast a singularity at them, right? So there's room for this to be good, but it's super niche, so I'm going to give it a 2. And it really needs like a very, very precise meta and deck to play against to actually be good. Determined Sentry, this is 1 energy, 1 might. I can't move to base, so there's our first 1 energy unit that we've ever had. So I think it's likely either like very broken or very bad. The best case scenario is you draw multiple of them and you play them both on turn 1 and then you double conquer on turn 2 and then you just get like a lot of value from that. If you have that scenario, this card is kind of like a 5. If you don't have this scenario, I think this card is like really bad. So I'm going to give Determined Sentry a 1, and then when someone breaks it, we can laugh at me. But yeah, I think it's probably a 1. Irresistible Fey Folk, 2 energy, 1 might. When I move to a battlefield, you may move an enemy unit to that battlefield. So yeah, it's a May, so that's pretty good that it's just like a 2-drop that is, going to do its thing. It can be that turn 1 play. Or in the late game, it can be Charm. But it is a 2-turn Charm in a sense, where you have to play it, you need it to become readied, and then you need to move it. And, maybe something like the Blood Rose, if you've got the ability to activate that, it's really good. Or you got like First Mate or some other way to ready it, can be strong. But this card is powerful. I don't know if it will always find a good home, but it is powerful in what it does. And I'm always a sucker for 2-drops that do something else that's good. This will get a 3 from me. Master Yi Tempered, 4 energy, 4 might. This is one hell of a chosen champion, and it is very synergistic for Master Yi. We always know those 4 energy, no power cost chosen champions are quite good, but he also has Hunt 2, and then at level 6 he gains Deflect and Ganking. So if he's ever able to hold and then go conquer the other side with the ganking, that's 4 XP already. So if you get to 6, he gets this, like, he unlocks this ability to really generate even more, but also he's just going to generate you a good amount of XP to help you get to 6 faster. This is a 5 for me. This is very, very good for the XP decks, but especially like Master Yi, who is trying to get to a certain level. This is just going to be, a very, very powerful chosen champion, super synergistic. Next up, we have Nidalee Catform, 3 energy, 1 power, 4 might with Ambush. When I win a combat, draw 1. Draven ability on a unit. Definitely good in colors that can kind of play around her with either tanks in front of her or just by buffing her up to get a bunch of conquers. I think this card's probably a 5. I think the draw effect is going to be really good. It's any combat, so if you can move her around multiple combats or charm things into her, that kind of stuff, you're going to draw cards, replace them. It's a very, very strong effect. Next, we have Neela, Joyful Ascetic, 3 energy, 1 power, 4 might, accelerate, ganking. When I move, gain 1 XP. This feels like another great way to generate XP just on movement. So even Kha'Zix is maybe going to like this to get like refunds. If you go in and conquer something, you moved in, you got an XP, you won a fight, you got an XP, you spend 2 to bring her home with the Kha'Zix ability, and then she also gets an XP back. She gets like a little rebate. That's kind of nice. And then just like, obviously Yi just needs more ways to generate XP, and ganking is really helpful as well. I think this card's pretty good. I'll give it a 4. I think it's a really nice XP card, but not completely broken by any means. Next, we have Poppy Paragon. This is one of the potential chosen champions for Poppy. 5 energy, 5 might. Deflect. When you play me, if an opponent's score is within 3 points of the victory score, ready me and gain 3 XP. So basically, in Poppy as a chosen champion, if you save her for the late game, she comes in ready and draws you a card, because that 3 XP can be spent to draw a card. I think this is really good. It's probably likely going to be Poppy's chosen champion, unless the other one is like a really good earlier game drop. This is just a really nice to have access to once per game, exactly when you want it. I will give this a 4 in that case. I think it's pretty nice, especially if you're playing like a more late game skewed deck, and this is a great way for you to buy some space in the mid game when your opponent reaches 5 points. Next up is Arachnoid Horror, 6 energy, 1 power, 6 might, Hunt 2. I can be played to an occupied battlefield if an enemy unit is alone there. And then it reads, friendly units can be played to an occupied battlefield if an enemy unit is alone there. I see this heavily as a Kha'Zix card, being able to be played, Hunt 2, Conquer, so then you can pull him home with Kha'Zix ability, and then you have this like friendly units text just existing for a while. I also could see this for Yi, because Hunt 2, that you go like gobble up like a small unit and you just get the Hunt 2 and force your opponent to deal with it, is still like also pretty good. Especially, I mean, if you ever use that to get to 11 and then he like comes in, or if at 11 and he comes in ready and you can like run home afterwards, it's really, really strong. I think this is like it's probably a 4, not a 5, but it's like close to a 5. It's like inching on the edge of being a 5. I think this card's very strong. I'm interested to see what players can do with this. Seems really neat. Next up, Elder Dragon. They're making all the jungle beasts 5s. Elder Dragon's a 5 for me. 12 energy, 4 power, 10 might. Any amount of your damage is enough to kill enemy units. When you play me, choose up to 1 enemy unit at each location, deal 1 to them. So just kill everything. It means Decree is permanently on for you, but one-sided. Yes, you really can't cast this for 12 and 4 power, but Dazzling Aurora exists. And then if you're like a dragon deck, even without Dazzling Aurora, maybe you have cost reductions that can get you there. And as the game continues, other ways to potentially cheat out big units, even more so Elder Dragon is scary. I mean, this card is just incredibly powerful. Now we have one of Kha'Zix's potential chosen champions, 5 energy, 1 power, 5 might, with Kha'Zix Evolving Hunter. As Hunt, when I attack, you may spend 3 XP to deal damage equal to my might to an enemy unit here. So it has Hunt, and then it has like Green Yasuo ability if you spend XP. I'm not very impressed with this Kha'Zix. I'm actually going to give... This is one of the worst chosen champions I think I've seen in the set so far, in my opinion. I'm probably going to give this a 1. I don't think you will play this in main deck or chosen champion for Kha'Zix unless the purple one is like somehow much worse. And I don't think it is. I think I remember it. We'll cover it in a bit, but I think I remember it being pretty good. So last but not least, in body is Rengar Trophy Hunter, 5 energy, 1 power, 6 might, ambush. I can be played to a battlefield where there are enemy units, even if you don't have units there. So he has Dead Bloom effect or ambush. He can do both ways. So he can be defensively if you've got units, and he can be offensively regardless if you have units. In theory, this can work in the chosen champion zone to just threaten at all times, saying if you overextend on a battlefield, I can just Trophy Hunter there, and I can just take it from you at any point if you don't want to play Red Rengar instead. And if not, I think this is still a pretty solid enough card to make Rengar's deck list. The Might is reasonable. He likes ambush cards. There might even be other orange decks that like ambush enough that they could play some Rengar Trophy Hunter. He's probably a 4. I think it's strong enough. It's a pretty good ambusher, and I like his additional effect. With that, that is the last card for body. Up next, we've got Chaos. Starting off Chaos with a bang is Bewitching Spirit, 3 energy, 2 might. When you play me, choose a player, they discard 1. So you're kind of 1-for-1ing a bad unit for a card out of your opponent's hand. And if you are drawing a lot more cards or have a lot more cards than them, then the shred can be really good overall. I don't think this is like too broken, but it's going to be annoying. And it depends on the deck you're against. If they have a lot of card draw, this is useless. If they don't have a lot of card draw, it's very good. I'll go to 3, very playable, but it's not a lot of might, and it's 3 cost. If it was 2, it'd be broken, but at 3, it's like really good going second. Crescent Guardian, 4 energy, 4 might unit. If you played a spell this turn, you may pay 1 power as an additional cost to play me. If you do, I enter ready. Yeah, it's like pseudo accelerate, so it can never be that terrible, but I also don't see a lot of reasons I'd want to play this. You also do require having to have played a spell on the turn and then also play an additional cost. So I'm just going to give this a 1. I don't really see a world where I'm going to want to put this into many, if any, decks. Evershade Stalker, 3 energy, 3 might. When you play me, discard 1, then draw 1. Potentially powerful in something like a Jinx that does still just want to churn. And then in the late stages of the game, when this is played, it ends up just being a draw 1, which gives you just like the ability to keep playing more and more cards. So it's not completely terrible, but with Scrap Heap getting banned, currently there's just not enough things that I think synergize with this that make it super exciting to play. So Filter's good, Rummaging's kind of good, it's just not incredible. It's a 2 for me. Isolate, this is a 2 energy spell. Move an enemy unit from a battlefield to its base. Then if there's an enemy unit alone at that battlefield, draw 1. Move an enemy unit from a battlefield to its base. Enemy unit alone at the battle. Okay. So literally isolating something at a battlefield. The draw 1 is kind of cool, but this is a very specific slow speed fight or flight. Oh, look how they massacred my boy, I guess, with the ban. This is probably a 2. It's playable. Good when you're trying to look to win combats and force your way in against multiple unit holds, but not that exciting and not super strong. Lunar Boon, 3 energy, reaction speed spell, discard 1, then draw 2. So Ezreal ability at reaction. I think this filtering is good. Discard 1, then draw 2 means that kind of you are spending a card, discarding a card to get 2 new cards. So it's relatively even, but it's giving you a lot of cycle. And with Diana, you are going to be maybe playing this in a showdown, so it costs 2 instead. It does help you filter, it helps you cycle. This is, again, feeling the pain of Scrap Heap being gone, but obviously, like, if Scrap Heap was not gone, I mean, how broken is this card? So definitely going to want to look for more discard synergies. Still very good with cards like Rasa for the future. So I don't mind Lunar Boon. It's probably a 3. It's probably not that insane, but it's a decent draw piece for purple. Next up is Megatusk. 6 energy, 6 might. Spend 3 XP. Give your units here ganking this turn. You know, it's interesting because Kha'Zix should have XP to spend, but I still feel like this effect is not good enough. It's going to be a struggle to find space in the deck to try and play something like this. I'll probably just give it a 2. Mr. Root, 2 energy, 1 might. Accelerate. When I move to a battlefield, gain 2 XP. Yeah, Mr. Root, 2 XP is a lot of a value that Mr. Root is getting. Right now, Kha'Zix, if he's got some good XP outlets outside of just his ability, which we've seen a few in Orange already, things like the Rose, right? That's going to give you, if you have 3 XP, then you can ready a unit, which is really powerful. I actually kind of like the idea of Mr. Root in that capacity as a 2-drop that he's going to run into a battlefield, he's going to get you 2 XP, he's going to get you a point, and then he's probably going to die. And that's okay. But in Kha'Zix, you don't have to let him die. You could, if he moves to a battlefield, he gains 2 XP, you just tap Kha'Zix and bring him home. And so there's a lot of ways that this can actually be a really good 2-drop, and I'll actually give him a 4. And I could be very wrong on Mr. Root. The 1 might is a very real downside, but that's a lot of XP that he gets to generate. And the Accelerate is like a really neat end game payoff if you have any movement effects to push an enemy unit back and then just get a free conquer. Star-Crossed, 3 energy, 1 power, reaction speed, spell, return a friendly unit and an enemy unit to their owner's hands. This is a 5. I think the return a friendly unit is often not going to be a downside in the decks you will build this in. You're going to bounce your own Fizz, you're going to bounce your own Ezreal Prodigy, you're going to bounce something that you want to have in your hand, and then you are going to return a much larger, scarier enemy unit at reaction speed. You're also maybe just going to save a unit from a spell that was going to kill it anyways, and get it to your hand, and then return an enemy unit. Yeah, I think this card's like broken, like giga broken, like very, very good. Probably can't be played as a 3 of because of the like requirements on it. But when you get this played against you, you're going to be sad. Vicious Snapjaws, 5 energy, 5 might. When another friendly unit dies, gain 1 XP. I'm just going to say this is probably not good enough and give it a 1. I think it's just, yeah. I mean, it wants to sit around and watch other things die, and it's not that good. Walking Roost, 5 energy, 6 might. When you play me, choose an opponent. They play a bird with deflect, but you're getting 5 for 6 with no power cost, and it has deflect. And the bird's not that good for them. And the way that this game works is like you don't permanently mark damage. So if the bird dies, it just dies. Like it's not. This card's kind of good. It's like a 3. It's actually like not that bad for a vanilla unit. Is just like good value. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. It's not crazy. Abandon, 2 energy, reaction, counter a spell, return it to its owner's hand instead of putting it in their trash. I mean, it is just an unconditional counter, and this time it has predict as well, and this time they cannot just pay through it like Hard Bargain. I mean, I just think this will often just replace Hard Bargain. I mean, I understand that they get the card back, so there are times where Hard Bargain is going to be better than Abandon, especially for like countering things like cheaper spells. But even if this is like, okay, they Falling Star my guys, and then I abandon them. So yes, they still have Falling Star, so they're going to kill my guys eventually, but they recycled 2 red runes. Like, you're so up. You're so up. It's a 5. Yeah, I think this is a really good counter spell. Angler Beast, 5 energy, 1 power, 5 might. When you play me, return all units with 2 or less to their owner's hands. Great tech piece against token decks. As a tech piece against token decks, this is just a 4. It's just insane. It just kills every recruit on the board. But it is a sideboard card. It is a niche card. It is not like a just always good, but a really amazing tech piece for purple to have to deal with like Swarm. Next, we have Blast Cone, 4 energy, 1 power gear. When you play this, you may move an enemy unit. When you move an enemy unit, you may exhaust this to stun it. So the first time you do it, you get to like charm them in and stun them. And then in the future, every charm, every movement effect, whatever you're doing, you are stunning the enemy units. And they added like the Trixie Tentacles too, and all these like, there is room for this to get really crazy. It's expensive, but it has like repeat. The first time you play it, it's still like a charm that stuns, which is, expensive for that effect, but it's good. And then after that, it just stays on the board and accrues value. This is maybe a 4. I think this is actually kind of good. You really can't play like more than one of them, but it's like, I would probably put one into like a Vex deck, right? Like I think like one in that deck, if I'm playing the charms, yeah, any deck I'm playing the charms or playing, Trixie Tentacles or something, like, yeah, I'll play a Blast Cone. Up next, we've got Existential Dread, 1 energy, 1 power, action, repeat for 2 energy, so it would become 3 energy, 1 power to double it. Stun an attacking enemy unit. If it is already stunned, return it to its owner's hand instead. So this is extra copies of Rebuke that can be played cheaply to just stun defensively if you're just looking to win, or be played for 1 more energy but 1 less power to just be a Rebuke. So it's defiable Rebuke, but in like other matchups that don't have Defy, it has the stun modularity really strong. I'll give this a 5. I think, Rebuke is so good already, This is just, you know, modular rebuke that has some edge cases where it's worse. Insightful Investigator, 3 energy, 3 might. When you play me, choose an opponent, they reveal their hand. You may pay 2 XP to choose a card from their hand. If you do, they discard the card and draw 1. For me, I really think this card is insane. I think this hand info is already super important. And then if you have the XP to spend, you get to take the best card that beats you, you know the hand, and then yes, they get a mystery card, but you're taking the best card that like is beating you in the spot. I'm going to give this a 5. I think Kha'Zix is the one who's going to most likely be able to use the XP, but I think a lot of purple decks could consider it just for hand info, especially if there are matchups where there are decks that are really like combat trick heavy and holding up a bunch of runes. Just getting that info can be really nice. Scryer's Bloom is up next. 1 energy gear. This enters exhausted. Kill this for 1 energy and exhausting it to predict 2, then draw 1 and gain 1 XP. So it'll replace itself, it'll draw, it gets the predict on it, and then you get an XP. So I'm seeing this as basically over 2 turns, you pay 2 energy to predict, draw, and gain an XP. It's fine. It's like good filtering, right? Like, so if you're playing a combo deck, this is actually a pretty good card. The predict, the draw, XP might matter, it might not. And so I see this as like a 3 for combo decks. I don't know what combo decks are going to exist, but if you find a good purple combo deck, this is a pretty reasonable card to be playing in it. Sinister Poro, 2 energy, 1 power, 1 might. When I attack, you may pay 1 energy to move an enemy unit here to its base. I think the 2 energy, 1 power is going to be too bad for Sinister Poro, because you want these 2-drops to be playable right out the gates. And while his effect is pretty decent, I think this is a 1, and it's just not going to be super playable. Next up is the list. 1 energy gear. As you play this, name a tag. For instance, Misfortune, Demacia, Poro, any tag that can exist on a unit. Then you can tap the list to give a unit with the name tag -1 this turn. So good answer to potentially Ivern. There's going to be a lot of tagged units that you want to deal with. But also if there are any decks in the metagame that are leaning on specific tags, the list is really valuable. And the first time you play it, it's already getting on rate value as 1 energy to -2. It's at slow speed, so it's not great, but you can get a lot of value with this over the course of a game. It's a 3. It's really niche, but I actually think it's like is fine for its value, and it'll generate you a lot of value over the course of a game in a specific meta. Up next, we've got Bone Skewer, 2 energy, 1 power, hidden card. Choose a battlefield. An opponent reveals their hand. You may choose a unit from it. They play that unit to the battlefield, ignoring any and all costs. When they do, stun it. A big one, we had a YouTube short out about this, where it's like with Draven Audacious, this is basically just getting you a point. Because if you have Draven Audacious on the battlefield and then you bone skewer something from your opponent's hand, it's going to come to the battlefield, start a combat, get stunned, and then even if Draven can't kill it, even if it's a huge unit, it will run home and you will win the combat as Draven, and you will score a point. And if you can kill it, even better. So really interesting removal effect that Bone Skewer has in the ability to remove a unit that hasn't been played yet. It's hand rip. You get to see your opponent's hand, so you know if they can support it, you know if the unit's important. I think this card's a 5. It likely can't be played as like too many copies because of just like how it works. You don't want to, you don't always want to double draw it or triple draw it, but there will be spots where it's like very even good to do so. So it's possible that there is like a specific deck, especially like a Draven Audacious deck, that even can play it as 3 copies. So really, really nice card. Conscription, 5 energy, 2 power. You may spend 5 XP as an additional cost to play this. Choose an enemy unit at a battlefield with 3 might or less. If you paid the additional cost, choose any enemy unit at a battlefield instead. Take control of it, exhaust it, and recall it. So this is possession, but bad at the start because it can only take 3 might units from battlefields. But if you pay 5 XP, it is the same as possession, but for much cheaper. It's just not at action speed. I think this is going to be a good one. You know, what I love about this set so far, and Riftbound has been doing a lot of this, they're printing a lot of things that are like very niche good in specific metas and specific like situations, like very situational cards. And I like situational cards a lot that are good. Conscription, if there's a lot of Aurora, if someone's got like an Elder Dragon and you need to farm some XP, and then when they put it out of battlefield, you steal the Elder Drake. Like, this card is obviously going to be insane and really important for you to be playing, but the XP hoop is pretty high to jump through when you could just play Possession for those same kind of setups. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 2. I actually think oftentimes when you would want to be playing Conscription, you probably just would rather play Possession and be guaranteed that you can actually always cast it. Evelyn Entrancing, 2 energy, 2 might, champion unit, hidden with backline. When you play me from face down on your turn, you may move an enemy unit at a different location to my battlefield. So she has backline so she can survive. She's hidden. So she's a really good bluff, right? You bluff Evelyn so your opponent doesn't contest, and then you like maybe reinforce a new unit and then reveal Evelyn, and you basically get to play Charm for free on that turn after revealing her. I think Evelyn's really good as a bluff if you're playing a lot of different hidden cards, and I'll say she's a 4. You know, something that really maybe Timo can look out for. This is some support for his deck as well. Draven can force combats with her, right? Really nice for Draven. 2 energy, 1 power, Heedless Resurrection, spell, reaction speed. As an additional cost to play this, kill a friendly unit. Play a unit from your trash that costs no more energy and no more power than the unit killed, ignoring its cost. So, as it says in the name, it implies in the name, Heedless Resurrection, you can replay the unit that you killed because you're ignoring the costs, but it costs no more energy or no more power. It costs the same. So the one that immediately people are looking at with this is Brynhir again. She's back at reaction speed. You kill your Brynhir, you resummon her. You kill Rasa this under, you grab Brynhir from your trash. Yeah, this card's a 5 because I think in general already it can blink to dodge spells. So like if you're getting targeted by a spell, instead of having to counter the spell, you just kill your unit and resummon it. If your unit gets debuffed, like by minus might abilities, you kill your unit, you resummon it. If your unit has Death Knell, you kill your unit, you resummon it, right? Like there's a lot of really cool ways that Heedless Resurrection can do a lot of different powerful things. And for that reason, I think that it is a 5. I think it's really, really good. Really, really one of the better cards in the entire set. Another Chosen Champion option for Kha'Zix. Kha'Zix Mutating Horror, 4 energy, 1 power, 4 might with Ambush. When I attack or defend, if an enemy unit is alone here, give me +2 might this turn and gain 2 XP. Wow, that is really good. This shows the isolation part of Kha'Zix, and it's very good with his signature spell, Void Assault, because you go in there and you move their other unit in, and then you're just like alone fighting it as a 6 might unit, and you just get the XP immediately, which then allows you to move Mutating Horror home. But also this is ambush from the champ zone, so it's you create a really good opportunity. Yeah, this is a very good Chosen Champion for what Kha'Zix wants to do. The only knock against it is that power cost, but I'm still going to give it a 5. I actually think there's a really good Chosen Champion for Kha'Zix. Next up is Maduli the Gatekeeper. It's Pike Returned. Pike Returned is going to be 3 energy, 3 might, Chosen Champion for Pike potential. Has hidden as well, so both Pikes have hidden. Backline. Once each turn, when an enemy unit dies while I'm at a battlefield, play a gold gear token exhausted. I like the red one more for Pike, but I think this is okay. It generates gold. It is on rate turn 2 play, or turn 1 going second play, that you can just like immediately play to the board, and it is 3 might and it's on rate, where the red one is not on rate. But the red one's like way better as a hidden card. Yeah, it's really hard to think about. I think this is like a 3. It's completely fine. It is not a bad unit whatsoever, but it is not like super exciting, and it's mostly useful because it is a good costed, no power cost unit for the Chosen Champ Zone. Now we got Maduli the Gatekeeper, 7 energy, 1 power, 6 might. I can't be ready. So not at all, can never be readied. Does not ready at start of turn. 1 purple power, move me to an occupied enemy battlefield if my might is greater than the total might of enemy units there. So, while she can never be readied, she will always be able to just remove over to whatever battlefield your enemy puts something that is too weak. So the Gatekeeper, it's really flavorful. It's like yeah, you just get her to a location, and if your opponent ever sends a small thing to a battlefield, Meduli the Gatekeeper can just run there and gobble it all up. I still don't think this card is very good, though. Really cool effect, but I don't see myself wanting to play her at any point, necessarily. I will give Meduli the Gatekeeper a 1. Now, Syndra Transcendent, the last of the rares. 6 energy, 1 power, 6 might. Is champion unit. When I'm in a showdown, your spells have repeat, 2 energy, 1 power. Really slow, really costly, but I think this ability can break. I don't have anything in my mind that's immediately like giving it repeat for 2 energy and a power is going to be insane. I mean, I guess like Rebuke, right? You repeat Rebuke and it's like cheaper than its original cost. Anything that costs more than 2 energy and a power that you can play in a showdown and then you can repeat is really good. Like if you're in blue, like just an example is like what, Comet Storm or Fallen Comet. So it's like an action speed for 5 energy and it deals 6 damage. But then if you get to do another 6 damage for an extra 2 energy and a power. So like that's the example of like the ceiling on this is really high, where you find these like expensive cards and then you give them the cheap repeat effect. And that seems really broken if you can figure out how to make that work. But it's in a showdown only, so it requires Syndra to move in, and then that means that you can only play action speed or reaction speed spells with this. You can't play like slow speed spells at repeat. I will give her a 4. I think somebody's going to break this. I think it's going to be nuts. And then we are on to the Epics. Baron Nashor, 10 energy, 3 power, 12 might. As you play me, add the Baron Pit battlefield token to the board if it's not there already. If you do, I enter there, and it has units can move from here anywhere. So, or here from anywhere, not from here anywhere. Here from anywhere. So anyone can go to the Baron Pit no matter what battlefield or wherever they are. Baron Nashor also has, I can't be chosen by enemy spells and abilities, and he has other friendly units have +2 might. That is a full board anthem. It is not just on the battlefield. I'm going to give Baron Nashor a 5, and I think a lot of people think, oh yeah, Aurora Baron Nashor. I think Aurora Baron Nashor is terrible, and you should not play it in Aurora. What I do think is that like a more mid-range purple build that builds up a large board, is like conquering whatever, gets to 5 points and has a board, and then you just jam Baron, score to 6 from the Baron getting there, and then use the Anthem to buff your board to conquer the other 2 battlefields, is going to be really powerful to do. And I could see Baron being an absolute monster in that way. So I might be looking at something like a Kha'Zix, who's going to play a little bit more, mid-rangey, aggressive early on, get some points, and then just like jam a Baron and end the game. And I think that's going to be really cool to watch out for. So looking at Baron as a good old 5. Next up is the Cursed Sarcophagus, 4 energy, 1 power gear. When you play this, banish all units from your trash. So they will never be able to be recycled. They won't go back in at any point. Then you can exhaust the Cursed Sarcophagus to play a unit banished with this. You must still pay its costs. So what this allows you to do is turn every single unit into basically having the text that it can be played from your banished zone, or played from your trash. But in doing so, you have to clear your trash to do so. So, for instance, like you would think, oh, Rasa could be really good with something like this. The problem is that you have to banish your whole, like all the units from your trash. So it becomes harder to have enough trash for the Rasas to be free. Still going to look good in index that you can reduce the cost of those units. Like looking at Miracle decks, they would probably have played this because you would just banish all your Rosses, all your battering rams, and you would still like fill up the trash to 10, and then you could like still play more battering rams more. Like it's very good for those kind of decks. I think this will probably break. I think people will find ways to get like really cheated low cost units and be able to like play them. This will be a 5 for me. I think Cursed Sarcophagus is going to go crazy. Now, up next we have Diana, no longer human, another chosen champion option for Diana. This is at that 4 energy spot, but it does have a power cost and 3 might, but she has ambush. When you play a spell, give me +2 this turn. I think this effect from the chosen champion zone is going to be really strong. Diana has the other option of a very consistent legend for the chosen champion zone that she can play, but this one is going to be really high octane, threatening all the time to play this as an ambusher, and then anytime you're playing a spell, it is just like a Raven Bloom on crack. It goes crazy. I'm going to give this a 4. I think this is a very scary unit in these like spell heavy decks. Next up is Vi, Apathetic, and it'll be the fastest 5 we can give it. It is 4 energy, 4 might, deflect. When an opponent plays a unit while I'm at a battlefield, stun it. They can't move it this turn. It breaks the ability to accelerate anything. It breaks ambushing. It breaks, like, God, it just stops your opponent from stopping you from holding. And that is so powerful in a deck that is built to want to hold. You know, think like Watcher. Like, usually a lot of these decks are like playing Watcher to break your hold, and then you just stun the Watcher and it can't move. And maybe you can deal with whatever units were left on the board. This is the reason that Vex, I think, will be a top deck, is Vex Apathetic. This card is bonkers from the Chosen Champion Zone. 4 energy, no power for an on-rate unit that does all this. Insanity. And that is the last card, but not the least for Chaos. It is the best, I think, one of the best cards in the entire set. And now we just have Order to remain for the domains before we get to battlefields. We're going to kick off Order with Bandle Soldier, 4 energy, 1 power, 5 might. If you are level 3, he enters ready, which is nice. If you got 3 XP, he enters ready. Kind of wants to be a Poppy unit because you want to generate XP in Poppy, but you also want to spend XP in Poppy. So I don't really like how that synergizes just yet. Maybe a future deck that wants to play around XP, this is not too bad because, 4 and power for 5 accelerate is good. That's fine. It enters ready. That's nice. I will give it a 2 for now. It's probably a 3 in the future. You will go on to Black Rose Dignitary, 3 energy, 2 might. Assault and Death Knell channel 1 rune exhausted. So, LeBlanc finding her Black Rose compatriots on rate offensively, and then LeBlanc can theoretically duplicate it and then generate a bunch of runes, which is pretty nice. I think this card's a 3. It's not insane. I don't like how underrated it is, but it might end up just being worse than Soaring Scout, but as of right now, like, it's more on rate than Soaring Scout. It just costs 3 instead of being a 2-drop, which is a little awkward. But yeah, I think I like it a little better than Soaring Scout. Next up is Carrion Dredger, 2 energy, 1 might, Death Knell. Play a bird token to your base. Yeah, I mean, it's not too bad. I actually like 2-drop that is going to give you a replacement unit, because often your 2-drop dies for free. I'll give it a 3. Splitting the might up like that is certainly not too bad. Not the most exciting, but it is not a bad 2-drop. Crimson Pigeons, 3 energy, 3 might. I have +2 when I'm attacking with another unit. I think this card is really, really good. This reminds me a lot of the trusty Ramhound from Spirit Forge, where it gets the +1 if it's somewhere with another unit. And these like above rate units are really good in aggressive yellow decks, especially yellow-red. Like, I'm thinking Darius, Rek'Sai. They really like these swarm-oriented yellow units that get to attack above rate. I actually think Crimson Pigeons is a 4, and it will very likely see constructed play. After that, we've got Heroic Charge. Finally, some good fucking food for stun archetypes. Finally, some good food for Leona. And then, of course, Poppy might like this as well. We'll see, but this is an action. Give a friendly unit +1 this turn, not a buff, +1, and stun an enemy unit at its location. It is at action speed. So you run in, you stun something, you get the +1. If you're Leona, you're going to give a buff as well, get a lot of value in that way. Really, really nice. It can be used offensively, defensively. This is a 4, really good stun support. Up next is Loyal Poro, 3 energy, 3 might, Death Knell. If I didn't die alone, draw 1. So a lot like the Lonely Poro. And in fact, if you are a Legends of Runeterra enjoyer, you know that this is the Jubilant Poro that the Lonely Poro would flip into if you put another unit next to it. But yeah, it's fun that they brought it into this game and just has the opposite effect of Lonely Poro. It's probably not good enough oftentimes, just being a 3. 3s have to be very, very good to actually work out for you. And if your opponent ever plays around it and you don't draw off it, it is like incredibly sad. It looks like the Lonely Poro. I will give it a 2. It's not like completely terrible. Like Ivern might like this because he's going to be playing like, these wider boards and needs the tribal synergy of Poro. So, it's not a bad card. In Ivern, it's like very playable. Everywhere else, it's not very good. Scrutinizing Sergeant, 6 energy, 6 might. When you play me, gain 1 XP for each friendly unit. If Poppy can build like a token deck and then jam Scrutinizing Sergeant to have like infinite XP for the game and keep the draws like flowing, then this is actually like a pretty reasonable card. The might and cost leave a little bit desired, but it doesn't actually have a power cost, which is really valuable. I'm going to give this a 3. I think this will actually surprise you on how good it potentially can be for being an XP generator. Shepherd's Heirloom. When you play this, gain 1 XP, equip, spend 1 XP, 2 energy gear, and then it's plus 2 might. So it's like Doran's Blade, but it spends an XP instead of having to actually spend any runes. I think this is really good. I think like spending the XP is way better than having to spend a rune. You can still ramp. And as long as you have experienced generators, like we even just saw with the Scrutinizing Sergeant, like this becomes a really valuable equipment, and the first equip is free. It pays for itself on its first equip because you gain an XP when you play it. And that's really strong. I'm going to give this a 5 because like this should be like a staple equipment for any XP oriented deck that is going to have extra XP to spend on occasion. Next up is Soul Harvest, 2 energy, 1 power spell. Kill a unit at a battlefield with 3 might or less. Pretty efficient kill spell, but the stipulation of 3 might or less means I think this will likely be relegated towards blue decks that are already wanting to play might reductions, where this can gain some additional equity on bigger units, because I really struggle with this just being to kill small units at a battlefield. I'm going to give it a 2. I think it's going to be really niche playable, but I don't like it just baseline. I think it's really hard to fit this in the deck. Ultra Soft Poro, 5 energy, 5 might. Has a tap ability to play 2 1 might bird unit tokens with deflect. Use this only while I'm at a battlefield. There's a really funny LeBlanc synergy here where you can push in with the Ultra Soft Poro, and then on the Conquer, you discard 1, you make a ready Ultra Soft Poro, and then you tap it to play 2 bird tokens right away. And those are permanent bird tokens with the reflection version of it. That alone is pretty strong, and then for Ivern, being able to have a Poro that generates birds is pretty good as well. Just requires you to be at a battlefield. Also, just very funny that Heimerdinger can start crafting birds if you're playing the Ultra Soft Poro. I think this is a 4. It's actually a pretty good card, and there's some really good synergy pieces that can make Ultra Soft Poro really strong. I think the LeBlanc one is one that I may explore, because I'm likely maining LeBlanc in the next set and playing a ton of LeBlanc, and I think that that might be a version of LeBlanc that is worth trying. Is, do I just duplicate Ultra Soft Poros and make a bunch of birds? Divining Shells, 2 energy gear with vision. At action speed, you can kill this and give a unit +2 this turn. No thanks. I'm going to give it a 1. I don't know. Sorry, I don't have like a much bigger reason. This just reads really bad to me. It's action speed, which is nice for a gear, but like, yeah, I just don't really see this being worth playing. Enthralling Protector, 2 energy, 2 might. Hunt, spend 2 XP to buff me. Hunt to try and generate some XP, decent. The XP outlet to buff, this is in Call the Glory colors, so there's some real reason maybe that you might like this. But again, just like I gave the crowd favorite a pretty poor marks, I think it's slightly better at a 2-drop than it was. I believe that was a 3-drop last time, but maybe I'm just misremembering. It's probably just a 2. It's an okay 2-drop, but not something I'm super excited about. And they took Swole Squirrel, which is like one of the most fire names ever, and then called it Enthralling Protector. So it gets a 1 actually because they did that. Because this was Swole Squirrel if you played Legends of Runeterra. Swole Squirrel. This is so much worse. Look, he is a swole... whatever. Anyways, next up, Mage Seeker Investigator, 4 energy, 4 might. Opponents must pay a power for each unit beyond the first to move multiple units to my battlefield at the same time. This is, once again, some kind of like token swarm hate, really powerful swarm hate. It is a tech piece. There's a lot of swarm benefit that got printed in the set, but also a lot of hate that got printed, as well as like Swarm Benefit in the last set, and it did okay. It's not been insane though, and I think they're just trying to keep balance levers watching it. This is a 2, but it is like a very reasonable sideboard card or meta call if Swarm is really good. Safety Inspector, 5 energy, 1 power, 3 might. You may spend 3 XP as an additional cost to play me. When you play me, each player must kill one of their units. If you paid my additional cost, you don't kill a unit this way. So you can get one-sided Cull the Weak if you can pay the XP. And if not, it's still just kind of Cull the Weak, but just expensive. I think this is probably pretty good. I will say, again, very meta-dependent. Probably ends up sideboarded a lot. But it is like a 4 in the times that it's good, because like, well, okay, I guess the point is like, do you need 6 copies of Cull the Weak? Because I'd rather play 3 copies of Cull the Weak before I play my first Safety Inspector. Okay, it's a 3. It's not a 4, because I'd rather 3 Cull the Weeks, and then I'd play my first Safety Inspector. Shadow's Call, 2 energy spell, give a friendly unit without temporary, or choose a friendly unit without temporary, give it temporary, draw 2. Really like this card. You can give like a recruit temporary to draw 2. I think this is very often just a 2 energy draw 2 without a downside, and then very occasionally we'll have a downside that matters. But yeah, very good draw spell. And I think this is just a 5 for me. It's like, instead of having to use Hidden Blade to draw anymore and spend power, it's like a non-power costed draw spell for yellow. I think it's really nice. Stalking Wolf, 4 energy, 1 power, 6 might, has Ambush. As an additional cost to play me, kill a bird, cat, dog, or Poro you control. You may play me to its battlefield, even if you don't have any other units there. So very important ruling for the Stalking Wolf, because normally if it was as a cost to kill a unit that was at the only battlefield, or only unit at the battlefield, you would like fizzle the card. Like Cruel Patron can't do this, but Stalking Wolf is able to get there. It's like above rate, but you have to kill something. So if you have bird generators like the Ultra Soft Poro, then this is a way to like capitalize on that to get some above rate stuff. I think Ivern will like this card, and it has Ambush, which is kind of cool. I think this is probably a 4. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's actually pretty nice. All right. We'll go up to the Star Hound, 5 energy, 1 power for 6 might. When you play me, return a bird, cat, dog, or Poro from your trash to your hand. So essentially draw 1 for the Ivern deck, and it's a dog. But I feel like I would hope there's better things for you to be doing. We've seen this effect on a lot of different cards, and really only Annie Stubborn is the one that it's like actually been good with, where she gets a spell out of the trash. And that's also because she was in Annie, who would ready 2 runes. So it takes a lot to be good with this effect. Being slightly above rate for might helps, but I'm going to give this a 2. I don't think it's that strong. Undying Loyalty, 2 energy, 1 power. This costs 2 less if you choose a bird, cat, dog, or Poro. Play a unit with cost no more than 2 and no more than 1 power from your trash, ignoring its cost. So 0 cost, basic, like for Ivern, this is like 0 cost, grab a 2-drop. Like that is maybe you have bird, cat, dog, and you don't have Poro, and it's like 2 cost, grab a Poro from your bin. Yeah, I think this is nice. I think this is pretty good. I would give this a 4. Like this is a really efficient spell, and it's getting like free value. Like free cards are very good. So yeah, this is nice. Ash Focused, 5 energy, 1 power, 4 might. When you play me, choose an opponent. They reveal their hand. Choose a card revealed this way and banish it. When they hold, return it to their hand. I think the hold condition is going to be really hard for a lot of decks to actually overcome. So often this is just banishing a card, which is nice because now, like, if you banish it, it can't be like fizzed. It can't be it can't contribute to Ross. It can't contribute to that, and it gives hand reveal information in yellow. This card's a 4. I think the might issue is a problem. The cost is a problem, but the effect is strong enough that it's probably still worth playing some amount of copies of Ash. And like hook decks are gonna love this as a 4 to cheat off of their like early game units. Next up is Otacon, yet another one of the giant jungle monsters, the big demon. 10 energy, 3 power, 7 might. You may kill a friendly unit as an additional cost to play me. If you do, I cost 1 energy less for each energy it costs and 1 power less for each power it costs. He has ganking, and he has when I attack, the defender must kill one of their units here. I think Otacon is a 5. I think it's going to require some synergy to really increase his value, but if you're playing him with like death knell effects that you're getting to trigger when you're playing him for cheaper, and if you're duplicating him with LeBlanc, he has ganking, and it's a when I attack trigger. So you go in and attack and conquer, and he gets that trigger, and then you make a copy of him, and then it's ready, and it ganks to the other battlefield and can trigger again. It's really, really powerful. I think it's going to be maybe bread and butter for LeBlanc. It might be something she gets to really commonly pull off. Next up is Galio Indefatigable, which is a weird ass word. 3 energy, 1 power, 6 might, deflect tank, and I don't deal combat damage. So if you're thinking, as I was reading those, like, that is crazy above rate, why does that work? He doesn't deal damage himself. I think I've seen a lot of people talking about hook synergies, because we did just see Otacon before this. You could hook a Galio into an Otacon, and Galio only costs 3 to play, so it's an early game unit. Maybe you use it to hold for a turn with the Galio, and then you like hook him, and then grab an Otacon, and you're really, really ahead. I think this is a pretty powerful effect overall. Not dealing combat damage is hard to evaluate because we haven't had anything like that before, but he's super above rate and helps you hold and protect important units that you maybe want to stick on a battlefield. So I'll give him a 4. I think there's like some really cool stuff that Galio is getting to do here. LeBlanc Fragmented, 3 energy, 1 power, 3 might. She has Assault 1, so will be a 4 might attacker, and Death Knell, draw 1. If it's your beginning phase, draw 2 instead. So if you give her temporary, she'll draw 2 instead. So we saw that card earlier, what was it called? It was the Shadow's Call, to give temporary to a unit that doesn't have temporary. If you give that to Fragmented, it ends up being like a draw 4 essentially cast that will happen. Or if you just make a copy of Fragmented with LeBlanc, when the copy dies, it's going to draw 2, which is very powerful because you discard 1, but then you'll draw 2 with that Death Knell. I think LeBlanc Fragmented is a 5. The synergy with her deck is insane, but she doesn't feel like she needs to be the chosen champion. You have the 4 cost in blue to be the chosen champion, and then you just play like 3 copies of Fragmented in your main deck, and it seems like a really strong card to be messing with to get a lot of draw for the deck. Now, up next, we have Sacrifice. More ways to get draw in yellow, which is great. Reaction speed for 1 energy. As an additional cost to play this, kill a friendly mighty unit, draw 2, and channel 1 rune, Exhausted. Really insane for like Fiora, who all of her units are going to be mighty. You like respond to a kill spell or a bounce or something and kill your unit, and just draw a bunch and re-ramp. Or if you have something like the Unsung Hero with a BF sword, and then you just sacrifice it and you draw 4 and generate a rune. It's really crazy what this card can do. I'm going to give it a 5. I think yellow needed some better ways to draw cards outside of just Hidden Blade. And I think between this and Shadow's Call, like, it's finally got it. And I think it might really finally be like yellow's time to shine. Like, they might have had enough of these like draw card synergies and like some good like payoffs for drawing a bunch that they could just be really good. Next, we have Shard of Undoing, 6 energy gear. The first time a friendly unit dies during your beginning phase each turn, each opponent must kill one of their units. Really slow, but powerful effect. So every time you have a temporary unit die, your opponents are going to have to kill one of their units, which is really powerful, especially in matchups where they don't have like a bunch of recruits or something like that. So good sideboard piece, but it is 6 energy gear that you're going to have to play. So it is going to take some time to get it online. Another potential target for Jace, right? There's some cool stuff that can be done there. I think this is a 4. I think in the matchups, this is good. It is going to be just so obnoxious to try and deal with Shard of Undoing, but it probably can't be a main deck card because there's going to be enough matchups where it is just so beyond useless and just rots in your hand. Up next is Tactical Retreat, 2 energy spell with reaction. Choose a friendly unit the next time it would die this turn, heal it, exhaust it, and recall it instead, which is nice. It is Highlander, but costs 2 less, so it's actually good. And in yellow, which unless they are yellow-green, they don't have access to Zhonya's and Guardian Angel. So this is a great way to get that effect at reaction speed in those colors, in yellow. Really, really nice card. This is another 5 for me. I mean, Zhonya's and Guardian Angel have shown how good they are. So in a deck that wants to protect units, a yellow deck that wants to protect units, Tactical Retreat is amazing. A very, very good card. Next up is another Vi option for Chosen Champion. Vi Peacekeeper, 5 energy, 5 might, ambush. When I attack, stun an enemy unit here. So it has that same text as Leona Determined. Leona Determined, it is a card that does not see play outside of Leona, really, and is only good there because the stun is also giving that +1 the lost stun synergy. I will say that Ambush with stun on it is kind of appealing. Like, that's a pretty exciting idea. But in general, it's, a little tough to be super excited about this card. I think the biggest reason this card is actually good is Ambush. Tying this effect to Ambush instead of being a slow card that you have to set up and your opponent can kind of play around a lot more heavily makes this a lot better. So I'm actually going to give Vi a 4. I was originally thinking a lot lower, but I think Ambush really sells me on the idea of this. Ivern, Friend to All. It's going to be our first epic that we'll go over. 6 energy, 6 might. As you play me, choose bird, cat, dog, or Poro. I gain that tag. When I conquer or hold, score 1 point if your units have all of the following tags among them: bird, cat, dog, and Poro. So already on rate, 6 for 6, and then it'll gain a tag, which will give it the +1 in brush, which is important for Ivern. So kind of above rate, no power cost. And then if you are able to establish this board state, you are going to be able to score a lot of extra points, or not a lot, but probably 1 extra point per turn, which is really powerful. I think this is a 5 for Ivern. I think this is like a must play in Ivern. Probably will always be his chosen champion. But you can't play this card anywhere else. So I don't know. Now it is Poppy's other chosen champion. 6 energy, 1 power, 5 might. Poppy, Defender of the Meek. You may spend 3 XP as an additional cost to play me. If you do, I cost 3 less. Ambush and tank. So it's Shen, but you have to spend 3 XP for it to be Shen. But the 5 might is permanent instead of just defensively. And Shen can't be played offensively, I guess, to be fair. So Ambush can be played offensively. So it's better than Shen, but it costs the 3 XP. It's contesting XP spend that Poppy wants to do already. I like the other Poppy a little bit more for chosen champion. I'm going to give this Poppy a 3. I don't think it's unplayable, but I think it's probably not going to be what you want out of a chosen champion zone. Up next, we have the Rift Herald, yet another one of the big jungle monsters that I think is very good. 8 energy, 1 power for 7 might. When I move to a battlefield, look at the top 3 cards of your main deck. You may reveal a unit from among them and draw it. Recycle the rest. So draw on move, and it searches, which is helpful. But then the very powerful thing is Death Knell. Play a unit from your hand to your base, ignoring its energy cost. So you still have to pay power, but you ignore the energy cost. And once again, a very LeBlancable effect with that Death Knell to create a lot of really strong things. And if you end up trying to play like a hook deck to hit Otacon at 7, Rift Herald joins that 7 that wants to be hit. So some really cool ideas there with LeBlanc. I'm going to give this a 4. Not quite as scary as Otacon, a lot more situational, but I think it is very powerful. And maybe one of the only big major jungle monsters that gets that 4 instead of a 5, but very strong card still. The final card here for Order is going to be Ruination. We got, if you're a Magic player, Wrath of God. If you're a Legends of Runeterra player, we got Ruination. The same art, same name. 9 energy, 3 power, kill all units. This has been needed to have something like this in the game exist, so I'm very happy it does. Yellow makes the most sense for it. The way counters are in the game, there's a lot of good counters that can really ruin your day with this, but I still think the card will be good and it'll find some niche playability. And for multiplayer, you can be the one who ruins all of your friends' day with the Ruination. I'll go to 4. I think it is a pretty good card overall. It's very expensive though, so you have to be careful about this. But if you've got a bunch of Death Knells on the board that like resummon units and stuff, and your opponent has a bunch of real units, you can create a very big tempo swing. But that's going to be it for Order. All that is left is to go over the battlefields. Battlefield ranking doesn't really work with stars because what do you mean a battlefield's good or bad? That just depends on what decks you're playing. So instead, I will talk about what I think, when I think you might want that battlefield, like what could be good for that battlefield. Let's jump in to the first one with the Abandoned Hall. There you go. Abandoned Hall. When a player plays a spell here, they may give a unit they control here +1 might this turn. So we'll give it a 5. No, I'm kidding. It's not going to be stars, but this is Ravenbloom on a stick. This is insanity for decks that abuse Ravenbloom Student. They just play this, and now any unit is a Ravenbloom. I mean, yeah, I think this is going to be a problem to be dealt with when you're playing against these spell slinging decks. You're going to hate to see this. You're going to want to try and avoid this battlefield like the plague, because it's not like when they're holding or they control it. It's just like when they're there. Yeah, really, really scary battlefield. Next up is Altar of Blood. If a unit here would die during combat, its controller may pay 3 power to heal it, exhaust it, and recall it instead. Feels kind of crazy for like Aurelia or like decks like that are playing around one big unit and they're just trying to protect it forever. And this just means that anytime they take a combat there, they can guarantee that their unit will live. It is a steep cost, but this is like very good for those kind of decks. And I could totally see Altar of Blood see play, and it'd be like Old Master Yi or like Aurelia or like Ornn or like just these kind of decks. If we see one like that in the future for Unleashed, they might like this battlefield. Next is Amateur Recital. When you hold here, you may move a unit at a battlefield to its base. Really nice for Vex, right? So Vex is already going to be very good at holding. So if they're holding one side and your opponent is just like, okay, I'll hold the other. Now, if Vex is holding Amateur Recital, you push your opponent's unit back when you hold, and then you can go offensively and retake their battlefield for a conquer. This seems like a very powerful battlefield for any hold deck that is looking to turbo hold one side forever and then needs to find an occasional conquer on the other, or even to set up a double hold. Yeah, really, really interesting. Probably see some play, but we're getting a lot of options in Battlefield, so sometimes it's really hard for them to see play. Black Flame Altar. Units with temporary have shield. Pretty reasonable idea for LeBlanc. You're going to have reflections with shield always, so getting that +1 for them is just going to make them more annoying for your opponent when they're trying to retake. But also for Lilia, especially if you're playing the Chosen Champion that gives tank. Now they're all your sprites are tanks with shield 1. I mean, there's a lot of room for these temporary based strategies to play Black Flame Altar, and it'll just depend on what the needs are of the deck. If they don't need card draw, they don't need other specific things, this just gives them some power that their opponent is likely to not take advantage of. So be more one-sided on the battlefield. Next is Dusk Rose Lab. At the start of your beginning phase, you may kill a unit you control here to draw 1. This happens before scoring, so it stops you from holding and then killing the unit that was there holding. But I think anybody who's playing around a lot of tokens can get a lot of value from this. I also think that potentially, if I'm understanding this right, this would happen at the same time that temporary would trigger. And if you can order the triggers, then you can kill your temporary unit with this that wouldn't have held anyway. And someone in the comments can correct me if this is wrong. I'll ping Grenton. We'll figure it out. But I believe that, yeah, you can actually stack this. So Dusk Road Lab would kill your temporary unit and you would draw, and then you can reconquer anyway, because that was probably your plan. So if that is the case, this is just insane for LeBlanc, insane for Lilia as well. And if not, it is more for like token strategies that are going to have like multiple little guys that they could potentially kill to draw. For Forbidding Waste. While a unit here is defending alone, it has -2. So this is a way for swarm decks to actually take advantage of decks that like to play around bigger units. They can just create these situations where the opponent, they usually only have one big unit, so they're getting the -1 when they're defending, and then whenever they would look to actually go for a hold, they're going to be playing, with a lot more units. Probably not a ton of decks I'm immediately thinking that would absolutely love this, and it's more of like a meta call on if something like an Aurelia is dominating, one of those like big unit-centric things is dominating, like a Master Yi from set 1, that you would want to play something, like this kind of battlefield. Next we have Forgotten Library. While you control this battlefield, when you play a spell, if you spent 4 or more, predict. So this is maybe Jin support. If he wants to be looking for some combo pieces, he can predict every time he's casting a spell for 4 and would want to try and hold this battlefield. Feels very like just this is Jin for now, and maybe Jin or Lux. Maybe Lux would like this because maybe she wants to predict to see what she's going to draw. Frozen Fortress. At the start of each player's turn, at the start of each player's beginning phase, deal 1 to each unit here. This happens before scoring, so it'll deny token decks from scoring, but more importantly, this gives a window at the start of every turn that you can play Thrill of the Hunt on your Bryn here. Yeah, which is the really scary thing with Frozen Fortress, because you can lock your opponent out of a turn by responding to this with your Thrill of the Hunt Bryn here shenanigans. And I think oftentimes this is going to be used for degenerate memes to give a window to play reaction speed stuff in the beginning phase. But what I will say is this also is a really cool concept to play something like Warwick in a game 1 or with Frozen Fortress and then side him out, or as a way to counter token decks and prevent them from holding against you. So there's still some cool things for Frozen Fortress. Then we have Gardens of Becoming. Units here have exhaust to gain 1 XP. Any experience-based deck that can look to hold can get a lot of value out of this, especially if you can put multiple units on Gardens of Becoming. It's not limited to 1 unit. So if you're looking to hold and get XP, I think Master Yi is maybe one that can potentially skew this angle. He doesn't have a lot of hold-focused stuff, but by finding a way to farm XP very quickly, like loading up Gardens of Becoming and just forcing your opponent to get you off of the battlefield, or else you're just going to like hit level 11 and win the game, is really terrifying. Ripper's Bay. When a unit here is returned to a player's hand, that player may pay 1 to channel 1 rune exhausted. So this is, supposed to be for the Blood Harbor Ripper, of course, for Pike. I kind of like the idea of him ramping when he's bouncing stuff. So, like, if you have 2 extra runes at the end of the turn, you don't want to leave something stranded. You just, like, pick up your unit, and then you get a gold, and you get to channel a rune. So you'd really be able to ramp into some cool stuff. That might open up a different kind of play style for Pike on that game 1 or on that, extra game that you're playing on Ripper's Bay. So something to look out for. Starspring. The first time a player plays a non-token unit here each turn, they may move another unit they control here to its base. Interesting. So what this does is allows you to pivot. So if you're like a holding deck that wants to be able to pivot, your big unit that's sitting there, you can then play a smaller unit to hold on Starspring, move your big unit to base, and then pivot it to the other battlefield to look for Conquers, which is a really powerful effect overall for these more hold-based decks that maybe don't have as much mobility. So like decks that are outside of purple, or just like in general just don't have mobility built in. Things like Leona would have really loved this in set 1, right? Being able to move things around. And I think Vex is a deck that maybe ends up looking at this, right? If they want to be able to try and pivot their cards after holding on a turn. So yeah, Starspring, look out for hold decks that need to make pivots to look for their big Conquers. They might like Starspring. The Academy. When you hold here, give your next spell this turn repeat equal to its base cost. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it still wants to be used mostly for cheap spells, things like Stupefy, when it's base cost, because the repeat, you don't want to pay like more than the spell. Like too much. You want to pay like cheap spells like this. But with Ezreal, if you've got Ezreal Prodigy on the board and you're getting to reduce that repeat cost, you're going to create some really insane things. So more Ezreal support, I would say, for now with the Academy. The Trapping Grounds. When you conquer here, if you assign 3 or more excess damage, play a 1 might bird with deflect. Yeah, that very funny, because this is like synergy with Vi. Like, she already wants to be doing this, so now she just gets a unit when she does so. But does she want a bird? And I don't think so. So I don't know who this is exactly for. I mean, like, technically Ivern can maybe like this because he wants to create birds, but he's also gonna just turn it into brush anyway. So it's not, I don't know who this is for. I don't know who you're for, Trapping Grounds. We probably won't see much of this battlefield, but maybe I'm missing something. Valley of Idols, our boy Chip hanging out on the rocks. When a player plays a unit here, they may pay 1 to buff it. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool for Set if he tries to go in like a hold strategy, but also any deck that has the ability to play a lot of like buff payoffs. A Valley of Idols can be cool. Not a ton. This is another one that I expect to be kind of lower on play rate as a whole. But, something to look out for if your deck is really buff synergistic. And the last battlefield is going to be the Vaults of Helia. When you hold here, your non-token units cost 1 more to play this turn. So this is one that you're trying to stall your opponent from playing, or you are a spell deck playing around tokens like Victor, right, is a really good example. Lilia maybe can do something here. So yeah, like Paper Tree, you want your opponent to hold there to get the negative, and then you want to potentially just be scoring it, you know, with little tokens and using spells to remove from everywhere else and making the other battlefield hostile. But that is every single card from Unleashed. And this time we didn't even do it in segments, all me, all at once. So, you know, give me a sub, man. Come on. Please subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it here on Turn 'em Sideways. And let me know, please, in the comments, what you think, how badly you disagree with me on these things, or what cards you think should have been 5s that weren't, or should have been 1s that I maybe pumped up instead. But I hope you enjoyed this video, whether you watched it all in one sitting or you've been listening over the multitude of car rides or work days over the week. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you for the next one.